whatnot. So a very important facet for this Team Solomid squad is Flash X, both mechanically and mentally.
Absolutely, and we'll see whether they are going to be up to the test here. They have to make it to the semi-finals if they want to keep their world's hopes alive, if they don't want to be overtaken by Tribe. But let's start to talk about the draft here. Team Solomid against Tempo Storm. Team Solomid, it feels like, is a team that can play just about anything in the meta, but Churn Walker has definitely been one of their major picks, and Tempo Storm take that off the table.
Yeah, absolutely been one of the most dominant picks for them as well. They always perform really well on it. Ever since it's come out, one of the first teams that adapted it, so Tempo Storm don't want to go up against it. First pick Blackfeather comes through, and then a first pick Rona to respond, picking the counter right away and not really fearing much.
Yeah, you gotta wonder if Team Solomid is going to ban away the Sky here. This is something that Tempo Storm was really the only team that ran, was the Crystal Sky as a counter to the Rona Bruiser team fight compositions. And so it's definitely an opportunity for them here to try and get that locked in. Hyde played it exceptionally well. I think that was probably his best performance that we have seen all season long from him, was on that Sky pick. So definitely would expect to see it actually come through here. And the Lyra, I think, is sort of a bit of an answer to it, because Lyra can prevent the Sky from moving around quite so much.
Absolutely. Also, another form of hard engage for the Rona to get onto that backline. I'm curious to see what the answer will be here for Tempo Storm going up against that Rona. Lance, definitely a solid pick.
I wouldn't be surprised if Sky follows right after, just because of what Tennessee Bacon said for the most part. They played it really well against the Rona. The Lance is also another pick that is targeted at countering that Rona pick. The Kathleen Walls can lock her down very easily or push her away, so it reduces her effectiveness. It makes it a lot harder for her to play to her win condition.
We'll see whether they do go for that Sky, whether that's something that they are confident in picking against a team like TSM. Sky definitely a pick that has huge potential, but we've seen so little of it over the last few weeks that it's a very niche pick, and definitely something that very few players are happy to go with. As you've rightly said there, Hyde, one of those players that is more than willing to go for that pick.
Obviously, another option that is very possible is going for something like a Vox in the lane and putting Blackfeather in the CP role in the jungle, or picking the Kestrel as well.
Yeah, there's definitely options available to Tempo Storm, and they're mulling over those options quite a bit, they hadn't used any bonus time until this pick, and putting a lot of thought into their final selection, wanting to try and get it right. Again, they want to play spoiler. They want to be able to say that they ended the season by taking out Team Solomid. So there's definitely some pride on the line here, as it is going to be the Kestrel lock-in for Tempo. And now Team Solomid, they could just go for the Vox themselves, perhaps, if they wanted to try and run that double weapon that we've seen a lot of teams going for. But I would expect something to be coming out of the jungle for Vonsi.
All right, TSM, show me that CP Rona and play something else in the lane.
It's going to be Alpha. Oh, wait, Alpha's banned. Never mind. It's not going to be Alpha.
Could be Koshka.
I take it all back. Yeah, Koshka could definitely come out on this one.
I mean, I really would think CP Rona would work really well, but they go for the Taka. And that's going to be most likely the CP jungle pick, and Rona being used in the lane to counter the Blackfeather, the Kestrel, now that the matchup has changed. Yeah. Very strong composition from both teams, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this Taka pick is going to work out. Obviously, Taka a pick that we haven't seen huge success here in these western, in the western regions. Taka kind of not had a great reputation this season, but it's definitely a pick that can have huge success, especially into picks like a Kestrel. If you can lock down that target, if you can jump straight onto them, you can blow them up.
And it's a pick that Vonsi used to be incredibly well known for. If you go way, way, way back to the very beginning of Vainglory, when the team was called Vonsi, he was able to make plays on this Taka and locked it in every single game, regardless of what the composition around him was. So definitely a pick that he has a lot of familiarity and comfort with.
Team Von in their time, Vonsi did play a lot of Catherine and a lot of Taka. So CP Taka could work very well for them, especially since they have the Lyra as well, teleporting in on top of Kestrel or on top of Blackfeather. Both are going to be squishy, and trying to burst one down could very well work for TSM. On paper, they are the much better team here.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see if they can live up to that here in this series. Everything is on the line for TSM, and apparently it is Taka Tuesday for them as well, even though it's a Saturday. They're going up against Tempo Storm. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know who you are supporting. Can TSM do this? Can they get onto the semi-finals? It's time to pass it back to Medic and Denominate to find out.
Thank you very much, Munch, and we are into the final series here in NA for today. Tempo Storm up against TSM. The battle of the two T's. Which T will be superior? I think Earl Grey is the one we can all agree on to start us off. Denomine, do you have a favorite T?
I'm actually surprised we're not giving Munchables a harder time for that Taka Tuesday on Sunday. But Tempo Storm, you know, again, they had a good performance last week, but this is Team Solomid, and they have so much on the line. You have to imagine they're coming through today with their absolute best, trying literally their absolute hardest that they have all season so that they can try to keep an edge and keep in the running for that world spot. So if I'm going to give you a favorite T, it's going to be Team Solomid.
I can understand that. I think you ducked away from the question. I assumed you were going to go for like an iced tea, because that's all I drank when I was in America. Lipton iced tea, I believe it was called. There are other brands of iced tea if you are American, I'm sure. You can get like sweet teas as well, which is not a thing in England. Like you don't have sweet tea. Well, people have sugar in their tea, but you don't get like cold sweet tea. It doesn't exist. TSM gonna push up the lane here with a minion candy as well to try and buff it up a little bit, but they're just trying to get Vainglory some time to farm on his own T, the Taka jungle that he has cracked out this game.
Yeah, and again, this is a pick that we know Vainglory for. He has double weapon blade in his pocket, but it likely will go into that crystal power Taka looking for the burst. Maybe even a tension bow aftershock, who knows, we'll have to see, but here comes Playboy Afro.
Oh, he's so low though, and Flash X gets himself away. Playboy Afro took a lot of damage there on the Lance. Thought he had the engage onto Flash X. The rest of his team was there to back him up, but they did not anticipate the Imperial Sigil of healing. Flash X didn't even use his healing flask there. Just able to sustain up through the damage coming out from Tempo Storm.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw Playboy Afro almost get deleted there, and he sticking around for some gold here for a moment, but it's going to be Flash coming up, stopping those recalls, forcing Tempo Storm to stay in the lane, and this is one of those key things that teams have to be able to do. Anytime that you can buy from your opponents being able to safely rotate back to lane, it's going to allow you to keep an edge because they're not going to get to spend their gold, and even if you're even on farm, if you have 2,000 gold in your pocket, if that's preventing you from getting a tier 3, that is not going to help you in a team fight. But Tempo Storm, they get the opportunity to shop. Gaspy not quite at that Sorrow Blade, about 1,100 gold shy, and Afro a little bit shy on the Fountain as well. Solomid getting the opportunity to rotate now as well and get some shopping done. So first round of shop is confirmed. Weapon Rona in the lane, going for that Serpent's Mask. And give her a lot of sustain in these fights, and she's probably going to need it. Gaspy on this Kestrel is going to pack a punch.
He is, and it's always a risk when you play the melee into range matchup in the lane as well, because you can struggle a little bit. Having Flash X here for the heals really helps out Chuck, but always needs to be a little bit defensive in the way that he approaches fights, and you can see Tempo realize that. They know that perhaps the lane will be a little bit more passive, so they bring two people into the jungle and now looking for the flankers. Best Chuck and Flash X have pushed up. Playboy misses the impale there. Playboy Afro unable to connect on the Lance, and that's not really what you want to see when you're trying to get that sort of rotational playoff.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tempo Storm, they're doing a good job maintaining right now, but they have to be very careful. And, Playboy Afro, he was a captain for the Hollywood Hammers at one point, and Lance was his best hero as that captain role. He's really a playmaker on this hero, so he's going to have to see if he can bring things together, if he can be that captain that Tempo Storm oh so desperately needs to take down Team Solomid here. Again, there's nothing but pride on the line for them right now, and that can be a big bit of motivation.
Pride in the respect of all of the members of Rogue and Tribe. I'm sure they'd be very happy if Tempo Storm could take out TSM here and basically remove them from the running. I believe that because Rogue were able to win a game early on up against Cloud9, they do still have a shot if TSM are locked out here. It relies on Tribe doing a good job in some of their later games tomorrow, but TSM still have their fate in their own hands. A win here would put them very much in contention for those world slots, and Tempo Storm are trying to act as the upsetters for that gravy train now. TSM push in the lane, and they already get a kill. First blood goes down. Vainglory with a huge chunk of damage on towards Gatsby. Great stuff from TSM, as now they can push towards that turret as well.
Yeah, and there's a lot that has to go just right for Tribe. Oh, Vainglory gets skipping while underneath the turret.
Manages to survive though with the Imperial Sigil and the Fountain being used by Flash X, and TSM decide they don't want to stay around too much longer for that turret. They do have 1,000 gold lead and can go back and shop up. And you've got almost 2,000 gold sitting on Vainglory, so he'll pick up his first completed item. It's a Dragon's Eye attacker.
And this Dragon's Eye is an interesting first pick. It is providing a lot of crystal power for that burst, but it's also not raw damage either. It's gonna rely on Vainglory staying in the fight as long as he possibly can, so that he can, build that Dragon's Eye up, and then follow up with obviously the Kaiten and the X-Retsu will do a lot of damage with the more crystal power you have. So it makes sense as long as he's sticking around in the fight. But if he's doing the whole in and out Taka style gameplay, then it's very easy for him to lose those stacks. So we'll have to see what he's able to do. So far they have a lead, and he might be able to find Hyde here.
Yeah, going to be fighting him in the jungle. Does catch her out, dodges the on point as well. Going to steal away these fronts if he can. Actually, he's going to come up towards the lane as Flash X and Best Chuck look for the engage on towards Gatsby. There's the X-2 in, and just the deletion on towards the Kestrel. Doesn't even have time to go into the active camo. TSM with their second kill of the game.
Yeah, they get a second kill, and they might even be able to look for some lane aggression here. Playboy Afro waiting for Hyde to get here. They've gotten a little bit of damage on the turret, but not much. And TSM, again, they are going to be looking their best to try to win out on these games. They need them if they want to surpass Rogue. Looking over at the standings right now, it's Rogue up at 31 and Team Solomid are at 27. They only need 4 points to tie Rogue, and if they make it through today, that's 2, and they have an opportunity at 6 more points going into tomorrow. Whereas Tribe are sitting 6 points down on Rogue. They literally have to win the entire week just to tie Rogue. That's if Team Solomid isn't able to pick up 5 points still.
Yeah, if TSM get 5 points this week, they secure themselves that second seed for Worlds for North America. So that is what they'll be aiming to do, and that has to start off with getting a couple of points here in this series. X-Retsu from Vainglory looking for the damage on towards that Black Feather Hyde, dodging his way away. Here comes the red mist. They look for the re-engage. Vainglory trying to build up those Dragon Eye stacks, but he's dodging in and out of the fight, and it's low. And we'll have to retreat down towards the bottom side. TSM haven't had to force too much on some of these fights. The Kaku comes out from Vainglory, gets some health back. They're looking for the turret, but the good Githian wall, and that's Vainglory going down the fountain too late from Flash X, and the engage onto Best Chuck as well. He was impaled underneath the turret. The second shot's going to hit, but he can run away with those boots. Flash X trying to escape as well. The Githian wall just knocks him to the side, but he can still get back towards his turret. Takes an on point to the face, but the Imperial Sigil heals him almost back to full HP. And here comes the engage. Good Githian wall. Flash X is low here. Here comes the Rose offensive as well, and Best Chuck getting chased in by Playboy Afro. Tempo Storm get another kill for themselves. The one-shot, one-kill does not connect, but they can get a lot more damage down on towards this turret, and it's only Vainglory coming in for the defense. Hyde gets a kill for himself. Vainglory running away down towards the bottom side of this fight. The turret falls, and Tempo Storm able to really change the pace of this game, get the tempo back in their favor as they catch out TSM and take a very slight gold lead.
Yeah, Rogue is sitting there biting their nails, hoping that the side of Tempo Storm can keep this up. They've taken a kill lead, they've taken a gold lead, they have taken a objective lead against Team Solomid here, finding a kill here and there, but it all started with a great play out of Playboy Afro, was able to stun Vainglory up on that turret, and then they get the kill. He rooted Best Chuck for a couple extra turret shots, and that may just have been the damage that allowed Hyde to get in there and pick up that kill onto Best Chuck behind the turret. And now, with the advantage, Tempo Storm, they need to look to keep this aggression without getting too far ahead of themselves. They have to be careful of Vainglory, but if they're able to stun him up, this Kestrel can blow up Ataka so easily.
But Taka can do the same in response. Dives underneath the turret, pops the healing flask. Imperial Sigil as well from Best Chuck, and Gatsby and Hyde are quite low here. Rose Offensive is available, as is the Fountain and the Crucible. The turret's falling low, down to about half, as TSM push towards it. Good Githian Wall with the knockback. There's the Arcane Passage as well. TSM go for the full in engage. The Fountain a little bit too late. The root comes out. Best Chuck manages to get another kill. He does go down to the turret in the end, but TSM will be able to get a turret for themselves. There's only Playboy Afro left alive. He's not really much he can do to stop the advances of TSM.
No, not at all, but fortunately they were able to kill Best Chuck, so they don't lose out on everything. But it is going to be a jungle rotation, likely going over to Von C. And, you know, again, fortunately they killed Best Chuck, otherwise that would have been a gold mine, and that would have been a huge amount of gold spike going over to Team Solomid. Would have allowed Best Chuck to likely complete an Aegis, try to avoid some poke out of Hyde. They are sitting a couple hundred gold up. Again, this game has already started off 11 minutes in now. It's much closer than I expected it to be. The Von C now has the Eve of Harvest complete on this Taka, as well as a level 11 Crystal Infusion in his pocket. And he's going to look to pop that likely when the next fight comes out. Hyde has an infusion as well. And one of these players will get something out of their infusion, and one of them will not.
The game of infusions at the moment, and there's one popped on Gatsby already as well. It's only level 9 though, not the best. Chuck has a level 10 one ticking over, and that breaking point, they can stack up that item throughout the course of the next fight. Tyrant's Monocle and Solid Blade finished on Gatsby. He's in a good position on this Kestrel, but he hasn't really been able to finally chunk onto Von C, who is one of his main targets in these battles.
Yeah, absolutely. Now both teams kind of gathered around the gold mine here, but it looks like TSM are the ones aggressing and Tempo Storm are the ones on the retreat. But now that they've got some healing on the Hyde, they might look to come through for a fight here. Team Solomid have this gold mine started up.
Down to about half. Here comes the engage with the Arcane Passage. Chuck's going to chase this one in as well. They're trying to separate Playboy Afro from the rest of the team, but Chuck takes a big chunk. Arcane Passage is back out. Von C jumps in with the X-Ret to Impale, blocked out with that damage, but already Von C is down and the Fountain comes out from Tempo Storm. They're looking for the engage. They just need to get onto Best Chuck, and then he jumps back in, trying to get the damage out, but the Githian Wall stuns him up. The red mist isn't going to be enough. Another double kill going across towards Tempo Storm. They might even try and chase out Flashsex, who dodges the Impale, but can he dodge Hyde, who is on a chase here? 6 seconds. Gets the on point out, but not going to be able to get that Rose Offensive. And Tempo Storm just turn their eyes back towards the gold miner. Here comes the chase on towards FlashX, trying not to give over. The ace manages to do it. The on point doesn't connect at the end, and Von C back alive. Gold miner will fall eventually to Tempo Storm, and TSM shouldn't be able to fight this one out, although they're not quite done yet. Looking for the engage. Here's Von C. Has the X-Rex who jumps in, but good Githian will knock him back, and Tempo Storm being able to disengage for the time being. Needs to be careful of this flank from the Taka. They jump in, roll across. Playboy Afro is going to notice that there's someone in his jungle who shouldn't really be there. Does have the X-Retsu back up, but with a Crystal Sentry, it's very dangerous to fight around us. And TSM realize that and back away for the time being, just trying to delay these back so they can fight around this turret push.
Von C might be looking to get onto Gatsby here. They are pushed up against this turret. What's the play? Solomid going in.
And Von C jumps in, but impales straight away, healed up with the Fountain. Gatsby is on that backline, doing a lot of damage. Hyde almost chased out, but TSM unable to find the fight. Von C's back to full HP, but that's a lot of cooldowns used to keep him that way.
That definitely has been, and now, you know, we're seeing right now the amount of sustain a Lyra can provide her team, healing them up. TSM are looking for the turret, but they're forced out by Tempo Storm. Yeah,
Crucible was used as well to stop the impale from Playboy Afro, who didn't want to use the Githian Wall too early. It was good play from Tempo Storm. They have 1,500 gold advantage. They've got double Tyrants finished on their Kestrel. They've got the Echo on the Lance as well. And a pretty beefy position if they can find a good fight to take against TSM. And maybe they can play Kingmakers here for Rogue and for Tribe. You know, if TSM get knocked out here, basically no chance of getting through to... Well, they have no chance of getting through to the second seed because Rogue would take it, or Tribe can play upset to Rogue later on tomorrow.
Yeah, they definitely do, but Team Solomid, again, they are looking for everything here. Their lifeline is at stake, whereas You know, Tempo Storm, again, they're literally just fighting for pride and the praise of the other teams here in the Vainglory 8. We are now 15 minutes in. Kraken is on the board, and this is where one of these teams needs to look for the execution they need. They need to get somebody killed so they can try to turn their attention onto this Kraken. Gatsby has a decent power spike for himself here. He has the Sorrow Blade and Double Monocle, but Von C gets chunked out.
But still back up to health with the Kaku and with that Imperial Sigil, and now can look for the re-engage. It's a game of flares at the moment, spotting out the enemy when they're stealth, trying to catch them out as they think they're about to get away. Here we go. Once again, the Kaku, the Arcane Passage. The Githian Wall was used, doesn't get the knockback. Mortal Runes on towards Hyde as he jumps back around the back of the fight. Best Chuck's going to take a few glimmers, and it's all on Gatsby. Best Chuck solo, pops the Red Mist, goes back in. The Serpent's Mask isn't going to heal him up enough. Von C jumps in as well, but TSM are falling to the wayside. That's 2 dead, both the carries. It's only Flash X alive, and Playboy Afro is willing to take the chase. Bright Bulwark comes out to stop him, and the Kraken will be started by Tempo Storm, and it's a great fight for them.
Yeah, it definitely is. Can they find the Kraken off this? They easily should be able to. Gatsby and Hyde do so much damage to these neutral objectives that do not move out of the way of your skill shots. So just like that, Tempo Storm, they take a couple kills up, they take themselves a Kraken, and now they can look to get a very strong push here out of this Kraken take. They have a lot of poke damage that can be used to help bring down those turrets and allow the Kraken to get in. But Gatsby looking to maybe renew his infusion here, spending a lot of time rotating down. This is going to give TSM some free damage on this turret.
Does renew the infusion, picks up the Aegis as well. Von C is looking for a flank here. Good Githian Wall with the double stun. Hyde gets jumped on, but the rest of the team is here in time. The Kraken gets a lot of damage down onto the turret. Already Von C's dead! Holy moly, he got absolutely demolished by Tempo Storm. So will the turret, and the Kraken's still pretty healthy here. Going to be above half HP as they push towards this choke point turret. And it would be such a strange series of events if both TSM and Tribe tomorrow were upset by Tempo Storm, because that's the way the black bracket plays out. If Tempo Storm beat TSM here, they play Tribe tomorrow. If they beat Tribe tomorrow, they secure Rogue the NA second seed. That would be incredible if that were the series of events that we were to see. But at the moment, TSM still fighting in this series. The Kraken going to get some damage down onto this crystal turret. Shouldn't be able to take it all the way down, but we'll get a big chunk out of it. In fact, might even be able to take it. One shot, one kill was blocked. One more auto. He takes the turret. She takes the turret. Good job, Kraken. You can go back to your resting spot and respawn later on in the game.
I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there that this Taka is not having the impact that Von C was probably hoping for. Is the reason that we've seen Taka fall out of the meta so heavily. I mean, once he dives in, he's able to get like one good chunk of burst damage. But then it's Playboy Afro stunning him up against a wall, getting a root, allowing Gatsby to get the glimmer shots onto him as he's committed himself so heavily to the front line once that X-Retsu is used. And they're able to blow him up almost uncontested by TSM. You know, it happens before Flash can even put an Imperial Sigil down, so they have to be incredibly careful. Now that Bright Bulwark is used, Hyde could look for an engagement.
They're going to go in. Von C knocks back, but the Githian Wall is great. A second Githian comes out as well, knocking Chuck back. Red Mist blocks out the active camo stun there with the reflex. A great Githian Wall once again. The Impale's just landing left, right, and center. This is superlative stuff from Playboy Afro, but still the fight continues. Githian Wall knocks Chuck into the side of the jungle. He's going to get some damage down. The healing as well from the Imperial Sigil group. Superb stuff from TSM as they continually heal up through these fights, and Tempo Storm don't quite have the answer to it. All on Flash X, so many times he's been the playmaker, the carry for TSM, and once again he steps up big here, continually keeping his team healthy and topped up throughout this course of the last couple of team fights.
I've been doing a fantastic job. In fact, Tempo Storm specifically are looking very in sync right now. It seems like every single time Team Solomid try to come in and find some sort of execution on a play, it's the same thing over and over again. Von C comes in, Playboy Afro instantly uses a Githian Wall and pushes the opposition back, and then it's a matter of Hyde landing it on point, slowing down Von C, and allowing Gatsby to come through with the damage. And they've done it so well that if they can keep it up, they'll be looking to take game 1 here over Team Solomid. Kraken is back on the map, so if they're able to find a couple kills, they can take that Kraken. If they don't find a clean ace, or if they find a full-on fight, they can just look to end the game. But here we go, Best Chucks in.
And going for the all-in engage, Vainglory there as well. The glimmers coming out from Gatsby as he survives off towards the side of this fight. Flash X putting down the bright bulwarks. A great stun coming out. Vainglory jumps in. There's the fountain, but already Vainglory is dead. Now they're going to turn their eyes towards Flash X and Best Chuck. Best Chuck has to prove that he is one of the best players in NA, but he gets impaled and knocked into the wall, and Tempo Storm get a double. They're looking for the final ace here. The one shot, one kill doesn't quite connect, but Flash X has no place to go. The ace will come out from Tempo Storm. They can look for the win here. And in pretty dominant fashion all around, 12 kills to 4, they're going to push in towards the base of TSM and take game 1 of this series.
And I'm gonna say, Medic, if you would have asked anybody who was gonna win this series today, guarantee you anybody that is not just a diehard Tempo Storm fan would have said Team Solomid. But Tempo came through incredibly impressive today. They take 1 game up in the series, and they did it very convincingly. And, again, Taka, maybe just not the pick that TSM needs to look for. Just not very good in this particular update, and it showed. It showed very clearly. So that's Tempo Storm impressing me right now.
Yeah, very impressive performance. They haven't won the series yet, of course. 1-0 up. Playboy Afro having an incredible game on the Lance. His Githian walls were things of beauty. Works of art, Mona Lisas, and other things of beauty are on the desk at the moment. It's Munch, Tasty Bacon, and Naraki Zoro. You beautiful men, take it away.
Oh, Medic, you silver tongue, you. Here we are here on the desk in Tempo Storm with an incredible first game of this series. 12-4 against TSM. And making an upset right here, making a case for themselves, and Hyde with a phenomenal scoreline at the end of that game.
I mean, wouldn't it be crazy if Tempo Storm beats TSM and then goes on to beat Tribe in the semifinals? You guys
Tempo
tell
Storm
me.
makes it to Worlds. Yeah, unfortunately, they're too far down the standings to have a run at anything. But still, a phenomenal performance here to start things off.
Yeah, getting just an incredible game here, taking advantage of maybe some poor draft decisions from Team Solomid, going for this Taka, not exactly building in a terribly effective way either, but you can't take anything away from the way that Tempo Storm played this game, the way that Playboy Afro set up plays for this team with the Githian walls and the multi-member Githian walls and impales was absolutely incredible. It looked like it was Evol or Gabe Vizzle out there playing that Lance.
Yeah, fantastic performance coming out, and the same can be said for each and every one of the members on Tempo Storm. Now, TSM managed to get the first blood of this game, but Tempo Storm at around 6 minutes answered back with a double kill, and across the course of the early to mid game, we saw them just trading double kills back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, it was very back and forth between these two teams. It wasn't really clean for either one of them, but that also meant that Kestrel was going to scale and the Black Feather was going to scale, and that's why it ended up working really well for Tempo Storm. The fact that it was a back and forth game, it was both of them accelerating their item spikes.
Absolutely, and you can see them managing to get a beautiful Githian wall there, and all 3 members of TSM almost going down. Chuck just gets away with his life, but then TSM flip it back on his head.
Yeah, and this is TSM going extremely aggressive underneath 2 turrets, but they're still finding kills. This is kind of what you expected out of this game when you look at it on paper. Team Solomid just putting this pressure on, finding kill after kill, going for these objectives, but it didn't hold up for them.
It certainly didn't. You see, once Goldmine was on the map build up, the fights really started to break down.
Yeah, I mean, the fights were breaking down. The impales, the Githian walls, the active camos. How many active camos did Gatsby land in this entire game? I wish we had a count, but there were many of them, and Tempo Storm just did a really good job of protecting the Kestrel and kiting away the Taka, kiting away the Rona, and they always remained together, which meant that they were the most effective.
Yeah, and then later on in the game, we started to see that TSM couldn't actually win these fights anymore. We have a clip of a Tempo ace towards the later stages of the game. In fact, this is back to 8 minutes again, and you can see this is when Tempo Storm managed to grab an early double kill.
I mean, it was just a really good impale and Githian wall that we needed to see the replay again. So now they push into the turret, and Tempo Storm, they started really well, and you got a question. The Taka went for Dragon's Eye first, as you can see on the replay on the screen. He has a Dragon's Eye. Dragon's Eye on Taka makes about 0 cents on Taka, to be honest, just because when you go in and then you pull out as you usually want to, you just want to dance around the team fight. You don't want to be stuck in there. It means you're gonna drop all of your stacks every single time, and you're never really gonna be able to stack up that item, which is why you purchase it.
Yeah, it's difficult to keep those stacks maintained during the fight. Let's take a look once again at that clip. This time it's going to be the end of the game coming out from Tempo Storm.
Yeah, and this was Tempo Storm, again, able to find fight so many Githian walls. Double Githian wall to start this off. They continue to kite their way on down through the jungle. Another stun comes through from the active camo. Another Githian wall knocking everyone out. Best Chuck isn't on any targets as he's spinning with that red mist. Another Githian wall impaled. Another stun coming out from an active camo trap. It was just non-stop crowd control from the members of Tempo Storm. They end up finishing off Flash X, and with that ace, with only one turret remaining, they're able to walk down the lane and finish off the first game.
Yeah, that was a beautiful chain of CC as well. It was an active camo into a Githian wall into another active camo, and Best Chuck just couldn't do anything on the Rona. He used his reflex block just a little bit too early, predicting that he was on top of the trap before he actually was on top of it. I mean, beautiful play. And the SM had a really sustainable composition, had a lot of sustain, but once the piercing started coming onto the Kestrel and the Black Feather, they just couldn't hold.
Yeah, they couldn't survive during these fights. Let's take a look at the damage done during that game, as it obviously is going to be Tempo topping the table. Gaspy and Hyde doing almost perfectly even damage between the two carries there, spreading that burden evenly.
And it's kind of interesting because you see that both the carries of Tempo Storm doing almost even damage, both the carries of Team Solomid doing almost even damage as well.
Yeah.
It's just one team is almost double the damage of their opposition.
Yeah, it was a pretty handed victory, it has to be said, to Tempo Storm, upsetting TSM here, and now 1-0 up in the series. It's time to start to talk about the draft for game number 2 coming in here. What does TSM have to change coming into this one? I've got to say, not massively convinced by the Taka coming out from Von C.
No, not really. I mean, it didn't work out well at all for them, especially come team fights and come focusing down a single target. Rona did a good job. Lyra did a good job. They were surviving. They were very durable, even the Taka, but they didn't have enough damage to finish off targets, and Von C's performance was not as dominant as you usually expect from him on other heroes.
Yeah, absolutely. Hyde stepping up in a big way in that jungle, and that's something that we saw way back at the start of last season. We saw Hyde was one of the most dominant junglers, back when Grumpjaw was the strongest jungle pick. We had entire highlight reels of Hyde destroying the jungle. It feels like in that game, he was that Hyde again.
Yeah, and typically whenever we talk Tempo Storm, if you want to talk a player to watch on Tempo Storm, it's almost always Hyde, because if he does well, the team generally finds a way to get a win. But in this game, they're going to be up against a Rhyme, so now they're going to have a very smart draft on the side of Tempo Storm if they want to find themselves with a victory.
I like the ban again from Tempo Storm, taking away the Churnwalker, just because not all teams have figured out how to play against him, so they're just not going to deal with him. The Rhyme first pick for TSM, though, this time they're like, we're angry, and we just want to go all out in the early game. So given Von C, one of the strongest picks here in 2.9, hopefully so that he can snowball.
It's going to be Arden locked in for Tempo Storm. Very strong captain. We are rattling through these bans. Lance and Churnwalker for Tempo, Black Feather and Lyra for TSM, and then Kestrel locked in. That's going to be going into the hands of Gaspy.
It's going to have that range to try and deal with a Rhyme. And depending on what Team Solomid picks for their final 2 selections, we could see Tempo Storm try and bring out that Sky again. Sky is a very strong counter into a Rhyme, one of the top picks when you're going up against a Rhyme. Rhyme is obviously incredibly powerful on update 2.9, still has quite a few strengths on 2.10, but Sky has always been one of those heroes that if you can play it well, you can kite around him and prevent him from being able to do a whole lot.
Going to have a different mech, though, coming through.
Yeah, I mean, with a Baron being on TSM's side, Sky becomes riskier just because, as CP especially, she's not able to deal her damage to a backline carry if she's diving. It's not as easy because those skill shots become harder and harder to execute on.
Yeah, especially when you have the Grace. This is a composition that Team Solomid has run. They ran it last week of the Grace with the Baron, and as soon as the Echo was completed for Flash X, all of a sudden, this Baron pick was able to do so much work.
What would make sense is the Reza pick for Tempo Storm, something they played a lot of in the past, and Hyde plays very well. It would make sense in that it can dive on the Baron and eliminate him later on in team fights, but against the Rhyme and against the Grace, that's not the easiest thing to do, especially with the heals coming out. keeping Baron alive from the Grace.
Not only that, but we've seen Hyde pick up this Reza a few times in Vainglory8 play, and I have not been impressed by his play with it thus far. So I actually would not want to see this Reza come out just because we haven't seen enough, and it is going to be the Sky pickup. But now, my question is there a place where you could run the Sky weapon power in the lane with Hyde on his Crystal Kestrel? That is an idea that I would actually love to see Tempo Storm try and bring to the table.
That would be the dream, because they would have a lot of early game pressure, a lot of mid game pressure, so much sieging potential as well, and Hyde does so well on CP Kestrel, one of his strongest picks by far in the past. And then on top of it, we saw how Cloud9 earlier in the day played the weapon power Sky versus the Baron, and were able to eliminate him in teamfights later on in the game. So very possible, Tasty Bacon.
And that would be a spanner in the works for TSM. They are 1-0 down in this series currently. What would TSM have to do in that kind of scenario to make sure that they can stay in the game?
At that point, it just becomes knowing where this Kestrel is at all times and just focus everything onto the Sky. The Kestrel, you need to jump to the Kestrel. You need to be trying to engage onto the Kestrel for the Crystal Kestrel to have that much impact, because she needs to get those traps down.
All right, well, it's time to get on into this game. TSM are against the ropes. Tempo Storm 1-0 up. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know who you're supporting. It's time to pass it back to Medic and Denominate to get into game 2.
Thank you very much, Munch. We are here for what could be the final game of TSM's 2017 split. They are so close to being knocked out of World's contention by the dominant Tempo Storm lineup, but they have the Grace, they have the Baron, and they have the Rhyme. But do they have the rhythm to win this game and take us all the way to game 3?
Well, Team Solomid, they have the Baron. It's something that Chuck has been known for quite some time to do. But Gatsby is on the Sky, which we actually saw earlier in Baron work out very well. That was obviously Cloud9's old school, able to run that one. But that is going to put Hyde in the jungle here on this Crystal Kestrel. Now, it is one of his signature picks, but it's something that has fallen out of the meta quite substantially. So easily countered by Vision and just not walking into those active camos. So it's going to be about Hyde and Gatsby trying to be aggressive in it. Like we have a
I'm pretty sure
here.
Hyde is DC'd or is AFK or some such thing, because he has yet to move from that position. He wasn't attacking the Treant, he wasn't doing anything, so I think this will be an issue with Hyde's internet connection. We'll get sorted out. Yeah, I've just been informed that we had a player who wasn't able to move, which I assume was Hyde, because otherwise he was just totally trolling Gatsby. He was just like, nah mate, you can do the work, I'll just stand here, it'll be fine.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting game. I'd be incredibly shocked if Tempo Storm was able to bring down Team Solomid again. You know, you'd think Team Solomid's going to bring their absolute best to this matchup and be trying to get that world spot, but and look all that dominant in that first game. I mean, yeah, the draft was a little bit iffy, but I mean, even their rotations together as a team didn't look like the Team Solomid we'd once saw. So it's definitely interesting, to say the least.
It definitely is. It's going to be very intriguing as well to see Hyde play this CP Kestrel, because he's got a double crystal bit to start us off. It's going to be weapon power Sky, I assume, with the weapon blade in his inventory. So I'm really intrigued as to how this composition is actually really going to come online. There's so many different options for them. It relies very much on aggressive play from the Kestrel as well. So it's really, really exciting to see Tempo Storm pick something that's a little bit more outlandish in the game that could decide TSM's fate as to whether they're going to Worlds or not.
Oh, absolutely. And again, there's so much on the line, and you know that both Tribe and Rogue are praying right now that Team Solomid is not able to find any points, so they drop here to Tempo Storm, because A, for Rogue, Team Solomid is the closest team to them in points that's possible to take over their point standing. Again, we were talking about it earlier, only 5 points, and they're guaranteed a spot. So if they pick up 0 here, that's the end of the line. Rogue only then have to think about Tribe, who would then have to go on and win the entire week, a whole 8 points. So obviously Tribe trailing a little bit, but definitely could have the potential. But they will have to, Rogue and Tribe would then have to face each other at some point and then go from there. But obviously Rogue's out, so they're in a rough spot right now. It's so hard to watch a team that was so close fall here on day one.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think there's always a risk as well that when that sort of mistake happens in your gameplay, when you lose out early on, even if you get to Worlds, you don't then reset quickly enough to actually set it up properly. Because I think like there's a risk for Rogue here that if they get to Worlds, because other teams have won, that they haven't reset properly. But we're going to hand it back across towards our analyst to break down the game thus far, break down the first 1 minute and 17 seconds as we wait to get this pause sorted out.
There has only been 1 minute and 17 seconds on the game, the Spartan number, as it were, Master Chief coming to visit us. But there has been a CP Kestrel locked in and a Weapon Power Sky, so definitely plenty to talk about here. We have Hyde CP Kestrel coming on in here, and that means that this is an entirely different kettle of fish.
That was a top-notch reference, I have to say.
Thank you very much.
I mean, we have a CP Kestrel for Hyde. This is a pick that, back when CP Kestrel was a thing, Hyde and I'm the Doom were really the only two players that were known for their CP Kestrel. At London, Hyde was a self-proclaimed, he was proud to say he was a one-trick Kestrel player. So this is an opportunity for him to go back to those times when he was dominating people with the Kestrel.
Absolutely. I think the game, despite us just getting back onto the desk, I think the game is about to be ready. So we're going to pass it back over to Medic and Denominate.
Thank you very much, Munch. We are back, and Hyde has been able to move. He was hiding in the jungle. He still is as he takes his back treant, but happily he's able to move once again. And TSM are actually only have Flash X in the lane at the moment as the rest of the team are on their way. Looks like Von C is going to be resigned to the jungle, as you would expect on this roam. And Best Chuck with the triple weapon blade will be sitting in the lane up against Gatsby and Playboy Afro.
Playboy Afro takes quite a bit of damage there. Gatsby as well.
Try to trade it back onto Chuck if they can, but it's always difficult to get the damage down onto a Baron early on. He does have quite a bit of burst with the triple weapon blade.
Yeah, absolutely does. We see the amount of damage he's able to do onto both the captain and carry here in the lane. And if they step a little bit too close, he'll be able to splash some damage over on as well. So they have to be cautious of that. And again, Best Chuck, historically, we've seen his Baron before, and he's a very good Baron. Baron maybe not in the best spot this patch. He's still definitely playable, but he's not the if you give somebody this hero, you lose the game carry anymore. But now, wait out for your enough spot.
Yeah, he is. He's going to go down to start us off. Tempo Storm losing out on that first blood. Hyde's actually tried to sneak into the jungle of TSM here, but Von C spotted him out. There's a scout trap that he's walked across as well. He's going to pop the active camo once again, but immediately spotted out, and Von C's on the chase. He's not going to let Hyde get away too easily. Sprint boot for sprint boot. Dodging the Winter Spines. Active camos once again. Flash X. Won't. Oh, he did. He just saw Hyde sneak into that bush there. And well, it's not the easiest thing for Hyde now. Continually trying to pop the active camo and dodge around, but Flash X will find him in the end. Has the benediction, jumps in, and Hyde is going to go down for the second kill of the game for TSM.
Second kill of the game. Unfortunately, the Crystal Kestrel, once you've taken damage, you can't use that active camo in combat, as well as didn't have the energy to use it either. So that is another kill going over to Team Solomid, and that's a good start for them in this game if they want to be able to press on, if they want to be able to make it to day 2, where they can look to acquire some additional points. S-Chuck doing his best to push this wave up. He does have the Heavy Steel and the 6 Sins purchased, so he has a decent amount of weapon power right now. Not a ton, but definitely a bit. Whereas Gatsby has rotated back, has the Heavy Steel and a weapon blade, as well as a minion candy in his pocket. Ooh, Flash!
Yeah, just about gets away. Does still have the blast, but doesn't use it as the glimmer shots come down. Best Chuck's going to jump away with the jump jets as well, but this is good from Tempo Storm. They've taken back the imperative in the game and been able to force TSM onto the back foot slightly.
Yeah, they have a little bit, and there's that minion candy pop. They might look for some aggression on the turret now, but Hyde, quite low on energy, is just going to take the opportunity to recall and top up some energy, do a little bit of shopping, and look to get back into his jungle for some farm as it's coming up. But Vainglory8's making a rotation over there now. Could take a uncontested half rotation and look to possibly come up with the team. Oh, Hyde! Almost, buddy.
Almost got it, but Vainglory8 is the one who's able to secure it and now has the Valkyrie as well with that level 6. So Vainglory8 are way ahead of Hyde at the moment, about 10 CS or so, which is a monumental advantage. And a lot of it comes down to when Hyde was caught out and had to sacrifice himself to the choke point turret of TSM. But does get some chunk down onto Flash X now. Yeah, they can look for some damage on the turret as well, but decides instead just to continue to try and harass Chuck away from the lane. And I think if you're a Rogue or a Tribe fan at the moment, you're cheering on Tempo Storm. You're saying, yeah, CP Kestrel can definitely work. If you're a TSM fan, you're in a pretty good situation. The Death from Above doesn't connect onto Flash X, and TSM can look for the re-engage as Vainglory8 comes in. Good chill wins. The Valkyrie comes out as well, but the healing is from the Fountain, and Vainglory8 now forced back away from the turret. Tempo Storm able to survive the barrage that Vainglory8 is trying to put them under.
Yeah, it was quite a close play there. Gaspy is going to be able to make it out. And now it's Team Solomid looking to get some damage on this turret. They might even find Playboy Afro.
I think they get the turret here. They've got enough damage, and they will secure the first turret of the game. And with it, about 1,300 gold lead. One shot, one kill, did not connect. And so Flash X is able to get to safety. Has that divine intervention in a couple of levels as well. So it's going to be incredibly impactful in these fights. The healing that a Grace can output is absolutely monumental, so we'll have to keep track of that as we get towards a later game fights. Death from Above doesn't land once again from Gaspy. The wave clear isn't quite there for them to push onto this turret, but they are going to get some chunk down with the glimmers, and with this wave coming up, maybe they can look for a little bit more.
They're definitely going to look for it, but it's going to be difficult with Best Chuck here able to clear out the wave. We see Hyde going ahead and recalling. Finally has that Shatter Glass online. We're almost 7 minutes into the game. Vainglory8 does have the Dragon's Eye and is now looking for some damage on the Playboy Afro, but can they find it? Here comes Gaspy.
Looking for the chase. Playboy Afro is quite low. Vainglory8 there in the midst of the fight here is the Death from Above as it locks up Flash X, but Crystal Sentry backs away. There's the Fountain. Good use there. And Tempo Storm will turn their eyes back towards Flash X. One shot, one kill comes out. Best Chuck caught up in the gauntlet. As Tempo can continue the engage. Good Valkyrie, the root with the Winter Spire coming out at the end. Ends up being a 1-for-1 trade. Iron Cannon, that's going to hit straight onto the face of Hyde, but he does manage to keep himself alive with a bit of help from Playboy Afro. It ends up being a 1-for-1 between Tempo Storm and TSM.
And this has been a crazy back and forth game thus far. Hyde, he's getting into some damage now and can potentially cause a lot of poke through Vainglory8 and Flash X. Obviously saw the one shot, one kill coming out through finding the kill onto Flash. No divine intervention yet, and Playboy Afro actually had a really good gauntlet in that last fight. But Best Chuck hitting level 8. He'll be getting ready to get a second point into that ultimate, extending his basic attack range a little bit further, and that's where Baron can really start to take off. Once he gets a range advantage over his opponents, they just have to be cautious of Gaspy.
That they do. Looking for the fight once again as Vainglory8 is on that front line. Hyde has the flank, gets some glimmers onto Best Chuck, but Best Chuck turns it back around. Playboy Afro there, Vainglory8 down to half. Hyde getting the glimmers down, continuing this fray. The Fountain comes out from TSM and Tempo Storm disengage. They still have a Fountain of their own if they need it, but they're settling for just getting that cooldown out of TSM at the moment.
Absolutely, it's Tempo Storm playing a little bit on the back foot right now. They are down a couple thousand gold, are down that first objective, but they've definitely been able to find adequate damage in these past couple of team fights. The Sorrow Blade complete for Gaspy will allow him to dance around the fight and deal out a substantial amount, but until he gets the breaking point online, he's not going to be able to match the damage of Best Chuck, who has the Sorrow Blade and the Tension Bow and is working into a monocle. So Gaspy, yes, he has to prioritize some armor, but if he doesn't have the damage, his armor is not going to really matter all that much. Hyde has level 8 infusion, looking for a fight, and Flash Very smart purchase out of him. Has gone with that contraption so that he can find Hyde, but Best Chuck takes a lot of damage.
Yeah, one shot, one kill comes onto Flash X, and good block up by the Grace. I think the issue really is for Tempo Storm that they can't really build too much armor yet, but they need it against this Baron. You look at it, you know, Hyde has no armor whatsoever. Von C's got a flank here as the active camo has come out looking for the stun, but can't quite land at Hyde there. Great Gauntlet coming out as it separates Best Chuck from the rest of his team, but he's just going to run around the side of this. Gatsby with the Winter Spire to the face. The Fountain eventually used. Gatsby needs to try and Suri strike away from this one, but instead just gets the damage down onto Flash X, and Hyde is on his way as well. This could actually be a good fight for Tempo Storm if they can catch TSM a little bit more out of position. The sentry goes down. TSM actually able just to get back towards the turret here as looks like Tempo Storm aren't going to take too much more of the fight. Gatsby puts down a death from above, but Flash X is able to jump away with the benediction. Here comes Playboy Afro. One shot, one kill. Doesn't connect as TSM retreat from the turret themselves. Another forward barrage from Gatsby looking for the chase onto Von C. TSM get the fountain back up. There are the Porcupine Mortars. They can't quite connect, and now Best Chuck is quite low. He jump jets in. He gets a kill. Gatsby's fallen. Takes his last breath and gasps for air as TSM start to fall. Double kill behind as he eventually got the flank, and now it's all on Von C, but he has no energy at all. Nor does Hyde, though. It's just going to be a prolonged trade between these two. Winter Spire, Von C looking for the chase. Doesn't even have the energy for the chill winds. The glimmers coming out from Hyde, and that will be the final Winter Spire you have to feel, but Hyde misses the glimmer. Von C's going to regenerate a little bit. Eventually, he will fall as he runs around. Here comes Gatsby. He knows how to close this one out, and Hyde hits the final glimmer shot. Tempo Storm get a delayed 3 kills and only lose 1.
Yeah, they have done a great job, actually, against TSM, keeping up their guard at all points of the game. You know, when TSM are able to find something, they answer back quickly. That one shot, one kill brings Best Chuck all the way below half. Hyde has so much damage against this squishy Baron right now. It's pretty insane
what CP Kestrel can do, but Best Chuck turns it back around. Look at the damage from that jump jet double auto onto Gatsby and Playboy Afro. Playboy Afro only has a coat. Here's the Iron Cannon as well, and Gatsby! Oh, that was close. Flash X thinks he can come in for the kill with the final benediction, but doesn't land. At Hyde has the double shatter finished. There's something we used to see a lot from Team Snow in EU, but Best Chuck jumps in. There was a scout trap in the bush. It was almost enough to kill Hyde. Von C is on the chase here as well. Good active camo from Hyde, actually. He dodges back in the stealth, tries to turn it on Flash X. They get the kill with the Crystal Sentry's help. And now it's up to Gatsby to try and take down these 2 carries, but does, even with that breaking point, doesn't do enough damage onto Von C and Best Chuck, who are on for the chase. A very dead Sky. Only Playboy Afro left alive for Tempo Storm.
And there's not much he can do, even with the Crystal Sentry here. That's just going to be Team Solomid taking down the Sentry uncontested, but they don't have the damage for Playboy Afro. And now, Best Chuck, he has the gold in pocket to finish a second Monocle, or possibly even go into a Tornado Trigger. We'll just have to see what that option he chooses. But Playboy Afro, he is getting pretty far out here. Can they set up a play? He has the Gauntlet.
Just too many scout traps, though. This is the problem. Like, they keep catching Hyde out on scout traps, and it makes it a lot more difficult for him to actually get flanks off because they know he's coming. And as soon as they know he's coming, they can set up for a quick jump jets into double auto, and basically that's Hyde dead because he has no armor at the moment. He's not building any defensive items, just going pure CP, thinking that he can get the catches onto TSM. He needs to be a little bit more respectful of the vision control that TSM have had as he steps on another scout trap, and TSM will get a gold miner here. They will trade it for a bit of damage, but even with the Iron Cannon, Best Chuck actually going to fall here, and Tempo Storm can push towards this turret. They will get the turret down before Von C gets there. The active camo comes out. Playboy Afro trying to dodge the midst of Flash X and Von C. There's the gauntlet as well, stun onto Flash X. The damage from Gatsby is huge. The one shot, one kill doesn't quite connect. Flash X healing himself back up, trying to get the divine intervention out, but eventually he'll fall, and now Von C's the new target. 3 seconds to kill him to get the ace. They're not quite going to do that, but they will get the delayed 3 kills. Tempo Storm continually chasing onto Von C, who is actually doing a lot of work here with the Winter Spires. Hyde low on energy. Playboy Afro is going to have to run away, and Von C is just like, guys, I actually have the energy to use my abilities, so maybe you want to run away.
Uh-oh, Chuck's
you don't
coming.
have the energy to use yours. Best Chuck is on the chase. doesn't have the boots proc to get any closer, and Hyde will get himself away. But look at the minefield of scout traps he has to walk away across.
Yeah, Flash has done a great job with the vision control. Not only does he have the contraption, he's making sure he picks up scout traps as frequently as he can, because if Hyde is not freely able to walk around the battlefield, able to get himself into a favorable position and get those active camo stuns down, then it's very unlikely for him to have an impact on the team fight. Vainglory does a great job of soaking up those glimmers and then just allows Best Chuck, obviously, then to come in with the jump jets and get a lot of damage down. And I was actually surprised Vainglory made it out of that last fight alive, to be honest with you.
He had energy. And
Yes.
Tempo Storm just didn't have the energy. Kraken has been awakened. Hyde is hiding in the back here. Gatsby's going to jump across with the Soul Strike. Good. Death from above, but he is stunned up. The Winter Spire coming out the fountain. Is it enough? It doesn't quite heal him up far enough. Flash X so low, but the one-shot, one-kill that won't connect. Playboy Afro has to use the Valkyrie to get away. Hyde's looking for the flank here, but can't quite take Best Chuck out. Divine Intervention coming out as well. Good active camo from Hyde. He's going to get stunned onto Flash X, and he gets one. And now it's a play by Afro to join up this team because they can get the chase. They can go onto Best Chuck. They can go to Vainglory. Can they make the catch? It's on Best Chuck, I think, here. If your Hyde gets a double glimmer, looking for the triple. Can't quite get the quadra. Can't quite get the kill. That will mean that he just continues to chase with the active camo here, right into an iron cannon. Gets the kill with a glimmer. That's exactly what CP Kestrel can do. The active camo just allowing you to reset fights time and time again.
Absolutely, and that just shows you still have to respect the damage that the side of Temple Storm are able to put out. If you get out of where Flash has vision, then you are very susceptible to all of the damage that Hyde can bring to the table. And now with this Kraken being started up by Tempo, they're looking for a repeat of game number 1. Can they find it, though? On C dropped very low.
Yeah, Gatsby's looking for Vainglory. The one-shot, one-kill doesn't connect, but they do have the mortal wounds out, which will help them with this fight. Here come the glimmers from Hyde, looking for the damage. There's the Valkyrie in response. Playboy Afro stuck on the Kraken here, and Gatsby and Hyde might turn back towards it. There's the death from above. They're looking for it. Flash X jumps in, can't quite land the Holy Nova onto Hyde. The Kraken goes down, it goes to Tempo Storm, but here comes Best Chuck. The fountain, Speed gets a kill and gets away somehow. Using the Soul Strike, Best Chuck's taken so low, manages to get a return kill. Here's the Iron Cannon, and Hyde now needs to run away from Vainglory, who's on the chase, but a good active camo stun will lock up the rhyme there. One shot, one kill doesn't connect because that's not where the Baron is anymore. Hyde getting chunked out with the Winter Spires. Can look for a little bit of a re-engage here. Dodging around with the active camo. Just needs a couple of glimmers onto Vainglory, really. And will continue to chase in. Looking for the active camo stun. Dodging around. There's the stun. There are the glimmers. That should be enough, but it's not quite because Vainglory isn't giving up yet. He gets the Valkyrie. He gets the shutdown. They're looking for the ace as well. The Kraken's pushing in, but Vainglory realizes he cannot chase any further onto Playboy Afro. TSM will be able to stop this Kraken before it gets to that choke point turret, but the Kraken did fall, and it went over to Tempo Storm.
This shows TSM needs to be careful. If they're going past where Team Solomid Flash has put down any vision, that's where Hyde is going to be able to have an effect. That's where Hyde is going to have control of the fight. And we saw it there in that last push that TSM had towards the Tempo Storm base. It was Hyde able to get down a lot of damage, and that ended up killing Flash X and Best Chuck. And then, they've taken a kill lead. They've evened up the turrets at this point. And despite being down at 6,000 gold, Tempo Storm are very much still in this game. And they are going to be looking to shut down Team Solomid and get the praise of Rogue and Tribe, as well as make a good name for themselves at the end of this season and preparing for 2018.
Gatsby's being engaged on here, has managed to get away. The Valkyrie comes out. There's the gauntlet as well. It's up to Hyde. Iron Cannon in the middle of the gauntlet. That is a massive amount of damage on towards the CP Kestrel. He's going to fall first, and now Gatsby has 4 breaking point stacks and looks like a broken man as he dives into the middle of TSM. Can't really do much. And TSM will be able to win out that fight. It may be 11 kills to 11, but this game is very much in TSM's favor.
So far, it appears to be, but again, Tempo Storm do find edges here and there. TSM, they are going to start pushing into this choke point turret. while Von C is securing some jungle CS, trying to complete his build. He's trying to get that broken myth online, as well as very likely wants to get an Aegis for the amount of damage that Hyde is able to put out, as well as getting that additional block so that he can get out of the gauntlet.
It makes a lot of sense, especially since there's an Echo on Playboy Afro now, so you're looking at double gauntlets more than anything else. Really, Tempo Storm just need a fight where Gatsby can build up the breaking point. That's exactly what he needs to do. If he can get to a point, then he can do something. But at the moment, TSM are not allowing them to have that. They cannot get away from the continual pressure of this Rhyme and of this Baron. And with the Kraken coming back up, TSM can set up around it. They've got the scout traps, they've got the vision, they've got everything they need to start up that major objective.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Tempo Storm actually all recalling except for Playboy Afro there, so that's a little bit interesting. One shot, one kill is going to clip Best Chuck. Is going to give Tempo Storm a little bit of vision for a second there, but Hyde, still no defense. He has Halcyon Chargers, and he's working into a broken myth of his own, but he doesn't have not even a block. So if Von C is able to get one hit onto him, or if Chuck's able to get one hit onto him, he is not going to have any way to get out of that fight shy of a boots proc. Now Von C looking to come up here. Here comes Chuck. This could be the fight Tempo Storm needs.
Yeah, there's the gauntlet. There's the death from above as well. Hyde looking for the flank here. Second gauntlet comes out. It's blocked out though, and Gatsby not really able to build up too much thus far. Breaking point only stacked up to 7. Hyde's trying to get the damage in from the side, but already TSM are taking down 1. And now they're looking for a little bit more as they jump in towards that backline. Hyde running away from Flash X, but he'll be chased in by Best Chuck. Just needs the crits. It's a double, looking for a little bit more if he can get there. Jump jets up in 2. The kill for the Rhyme. Von C gets 1. Hyde falls as well. TSM get the 8, and they will look to close out this game and take it to 1-1.
Team Solomid hanging on to this series by a thread. They managed to come through in this second game, but you know, Tempo showed us that they can beat TSM. So looking into this third game, this is still anybody's potential win here. But Team Solomid, you know, they come through strong with a performance here in game 2. It was a close one though for a majority of that game.
Close but no cigar for Tempo Storm as their hopes of winning a 2-0 versus TSM are dashed upon the rocks that is the Winter Spire from this Rhyme. Great stuff from Von C, great stuff from TSM all round, you have to say. And with it being 1-1, we are going all the way in this series. TSM had a chance to redeem themselves and get themselves closer to that second seed in Worlds. That's it from me and Denomine for now. We'll be back with the next game straight after these analysts break down the action and tell us more about exactly what they think. Munch, take it away.
Thank you very much, guys. Team Solomid managing to pull themselves back into this series. Tempo Storm, they did a good job in game number 1. They managed to fight their way through game number 2, but Team Solomid had their number by the end of things and managed to take this one on. Honestly, Von C's Rhyme was just too strong.
Yeah, they weren't able to ever really get the damage onto the Rhyme that they needed to find team fight victories. The Fortified Health and Eve of Harvest just keeping him alive for so long in these fights, plus Divine Interventions coming through as well. It was just so difficult. They only got him down once in the entire game, so obviously just causing a massive problem for Tempo Storm.
I mean, it honestly really was too smart. I mean, we saw so many different situations. He would go for 1v2, 1v3, and would come out ahead. And also, his ability is always landing. It was nice seeing Hyde's CP Kestrel. Unfortunately, though, for Tempo Storm, it was not enough in this game.
Yeah, it just simply wasn't enough, and it means that Tempo Storm fall down to a 1-1 tie right now with Team Solomid. Now, Team Solomid started the game off strong, managing to grab themselves first blood, but Tempo came back with a couple of double kills back-to-back.
Yeah, and this was when the Kestrel was able to have a big impact on this game, sneaking up behind the enemy team and using those glimmer shots to just do so much damage. Even when you get blocked by a minion, you still have plenty of damage to provide with the splash. And Hyde, this is one of his specialties, is this Crystal Kestrel. Wasn't quite what we normally expect to see from him. Was missing a lot of his one-shot, one-kills, which is very uncharacteristic for his Kestrel, but it's just the rest of the play was what we expect.
Rhyme also did very well against the Kestrel, as we're going to see them here finish off the kill. It was very hard for them to take down those targets, however, just because of how tanky they were. And then until Skye got her breaking point, they weren't finishing those targets. But Rhyme managed to snowball against the Kestrel for the most part in the early game and mid game. He was 2 levels ahead. Vainglory was 2 levels ahead of Hyde, and that definitely translated to how well they were able to scale the Baron. Definitely credit given over to Vainglory for stealing so many camps away from Vainglory.
Absolutely. And even though Hyde had a great score during that early game, once we got to sort of the later stages, once we got to around 18 minutes, we saw TSM really starting to take control of fights, and it was getting to a point where it didn't feel like Tempo could win these fights anymore.
Yeah, especially if Hyde ever got caught out. This is one of the difficulties of this Kestrel build is he has no defense whatsoever. So at that point, he got stuck on a Winter Spire, and it just deleted his health in an instant. So it's a high risk, high reward type of build, and unfortunately, the risk outweighed the pros on this in this game at least.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see him go for the Halcyon Chargers. You could see here in this fight, Gatsby was trying to get onto the Baron to finish him off in the backline, but honestly, his Sky Weapon Ball was not nearly as good as Old School's was in the Cloud9 series when they played it against the Baron and they won with it. He was not able to dive in and dance around the Rhyme while dealing damage to the Baron very effectively. But the Kestrel, I was very surprised to see him go for the Halcyon Chargers instead of going for a Clockwork. In my opinion, that would have given him a lot more DPS and a lot more pressure throughout the mid game as well as the late game. So Hyde a little bit of mistakes with his itemization, perhaps not knowing how to play the CP Kestrel now that he hasn't played it for a very long time.
Perhaps that might be the case, and the Baron the Sky not really working out for them in the end. But that is going to be the end of our first one. Let's take a look at the damage coming through on the end of that second game. It was Bestchuk NA topping the table. Vainglory very close to him. Honestly, Rhyme isn't usually topping the damage chart, but Vainglory was just such a nuisance for Tempo Storm the entire game.
Yeah, and again, the damage is very close. Like the Kestrel and the Sky did output a lot of damage, but they had to go through so much to get the kills with that same amount of damage. Like they had to deal with the Divine Intervention. They had to deal with the healing and the fortified health coming out from the Rhyme. So, they had very high amounts of damage, but they had to do more damage in order to get kills.
And here's the thing. Yes, TSM won, but it was not a decisive win. It was very back and forth, and they still lost the first game versus Tempo Storm. You want TSM definitely to come out a lot stronger, especially since losing any single game could matter later on in some tiebreaker scenarios.
And honestly, whichever team wins this series has to go against Tribe tomorrow, and a Tribe that was looking damn good earlier today. So you have to have a stronger performance here. Whichever team wins this quarterfinal is going to be Churnwalker starting off this draft with a Bando, and then Rhyme from TSM, and that is Blackfeather locked in for Tempo Storm.
Yeah, the Rona's going to come through for Team Solomid as an immediate answer. So, could this be Tempo Storm going back to, if they won game 1 while on A side by doing something very similar, see if they try and have a repeat performance. The Kestrel is going to get banned. Alpha taken away by Tempo Storm. Team Solomid, I think it would be a very smart pick for them to take the Lance away from Tempo Storm, but they're going to stick to the Lyra.
Yeah, and at this point, it's available for Lance if they want to go for it. Playboy Afro really performed incredibly on this hero in the first game, and it worked so well against the Rona. TSM are sticking to their draft from the first game and saying we can make it work. We just have to perform better.
Lance CP Sky could very well be the decision here for Tempo Storm. Again, you can use that CP Sky to kite around the Rona. We've seen Hyde do that and be successful with it. The Lance, we saw Playboy Afro able to set up so many plays in game number 1 with it. So it is an option, but it could also be that Crystal Blackfeather for Hyde once again as well. So a couple of choices to be made on the side of Tempo Storm.
Yeah, they could very well go for what they went towards in the first game. The first time they went for the Kestrel, now they don't have that available. They can go for the Vox. But picking up Arden already, they could be changing their draft. Vox would have worked just as fine as Kestrel, if not even better with the Poison Shift that he is able to pick up. So Tempo Storm not feeling as confident as the first game with that sort of composition against the Rona. Let's see what their last pick is going to be here, because that could determine a lot in how the game plays out, as well as TSM's last pick.
Absolutely, and especially when you've got that Blackfeather as your first pick, the final pick will always determine a lot just because of how flexible Blackfeather is on update 2.9. Curious to see where Tempo Storm go with this one. Things like the Baron still available. That's something we've seen them play in the past, but not fantastic into that Lyra. Well, they've only got 5 seconds left on the clock, so we'll soon discover what it is that they're bringing, and it is going to be that Skye. We'll see whether that will be CP Skye, or if Gatsby wants to take that to the lane again. It didn't really work out for them last game.
I have a feeling it will be the CP Skye, just because, again, that was how they were able to beat Rona previously, and it works so well into that matchup. You're able to just keep your distance and prevent the Rona from getting the red mist spinning onto all three members. Really, the only one that she's going to reliably be able to stick on the entire time is going to be that Arden, because obviously the Blackfeather can get himself out of there, but a Celeste coming through as well. This is an interesting pickup because of the fact that now Gatsby with this Blackfeather, you can do so much work against a Celeste as a weapon Blackfeather.
At the same time, though, for TSM, all they have to do now is protect that Celeste on the back line. Once they get to level 8 on her, they can have a huge range advantage. They can play a lot, create a lot of opportunities with it. And when Blackfeather and Arden will want to dive on her, Rona just has to stick around her, use her red mist, and then all of a sudden, everything is working perfectly for C9, or for TSM, excuse me. So it's going to be on Hyde. How is he going to perform with this guy? Is he going to be able to help his team dive onto the Celeste? Because it's definitely very possible. A Suri strike across the team fight and a well-placed death from above can definitely turn things around.
That could swap the game on its head. It's time to get into game number 3, our last game of the day. Hashtag Vainglory8. Can Tempo finish the upset? Is TSM going to take this one 2-for-1? That is going to be the question. We want to know who you think is going to be able to take this one on Twitter. Make sure to get in touch and get online on social media, but the compositions are set. We have a lot of range on both sides of the table, a lot of CP range damage as well. But Blackfeather versus Rona, typically that matchup goes in favor of the Rona.
It typically does, but that's when there isn't a Skye on the team as well. A lot of times when a team runs this Blackfeather, they're going for that all-in sort of bruiser brawl style composition themselves. And the fact that Tempo Storm isn't necessarily going to be going for that brawling type composition could cause problems for the Rona.
I mean, the other question also is that, is this Rona going to go to the lane with Best Chuck, or is it going to go to the jungle with Von C? If it is in the jungle, one weakness that it has is that it doesn't get as much gold, it doesn't get as many items, so it means it can make only one out of two choices. Either go for the defense or either go for the damage. And either one, you could have not as much effectiveness in the team fights, because you could either be squishy or you could be not dishing out as much damage.
All right, I want to talk a little bit about mentalities coming on into this game. If you're Team Solomid right now, everything is on the line. Let's remember, they need to win this quarterfinal if they want to make it to the World Championship. Tribe is breathing down their neck. They're already in the semi-finals, and TSM are in a 1-1 series. How do you deal with that pressure? How do they come in with a level head here?
That's the difficulty here, because not only are they, have Tribe in the back of their mind, but if they don't win this game, Tribe doesn't even matter to them, because they wouldn't be passing Rogue to get that world spot. So there's so much pressure on Team Solomid, and it's just all about keeping a clear head. You have to try and not think about that whatsoever, and just try and focus on just one game at a time. Get yourself the victory and move on. Worry about it tomorrow.
Right, and usually when you're in these situations, the way to do that, to keep a calm head and focus on your matches, to just go throughout what you need. You go through a checklist. Okay, we got this composition. We're going to try to execute on this strategy. We're going to try to focus this hero. These are our strengths. These are their weaknesses. And you just take it one step at a time. Flash X, we talked about him. He's the captain of the team. So this is going to be his responsibility, keeping them calm and collected, and he's done it incredibly in the past, so he just needs to do it again for one more game here.
Yeah, absolutely. He is one of those well-renowned leaders within Vainglory. I want to talk a little bit more about this Blackfeather versus Celeste matchup, because obviously in previous updates, in 2.8 for example, Celeste was kind of classically countered by Blackfeather. That was the pick that you went specifically against a Celeste with. And realistically, Rona ain't that good at peeling. So how is that late game team fight going to pan out where the Celeste actually survives against a Blackfeather? What does TSM have to do to keep that Celeste alive?
I mean, realistically, they don't have much peeling. It's only the Bulwark and it's only the Sigil that can keep Celeste alive. So it's about out-damaging your opponent, about Celeste dealing a lot of AoE damage and then Rona dealing a lot of AoE damage when Blackfeather and Arden try to dive and target the Celeste. So again, it's about out-damaging them rather than out-surviving them.
There's also another way to go about it, is to be more proactive. If you're the team that is making the moves to go aggressive, it becomes a little bit more difficult for the Blackfeather to get onto that back line, because it is so far away that if you try and just dive onto him, if the Rose offensive gets used, defensively at all by the Black Feather. Now his ability to get onto this Celeste and stick to her is severely diminished. So Team Solomid, they're definitely going to have to be the ones that are trying to be the aggressors and trying to make plays happen by getting onto this Black Feather and Sky.
All right, we'll see who is going to be able to blow up the opponents first. It seems like these team fights are going to be explosive. There was a little glitch with the draft going on through there, but everything has been reset, and we should be able to jump on into this game. Make sure to let us know who you are supporting on Twitter. Do you believe that TSM can go on into the semifinals against Tribe? Let us know. Hashtag Vainglory8. It's time to pass it over to Medic and Denominate and kick this series off once and for all. Oh, I have been told that the server did in fact crash again. So we're not thrown to the casters just yet.
You guys are going to have to keep on seeing us for a little bit more.
Yeah, we're going to keep talking to you for a little while on this one. I want to talk about the jungle matchup coming into this one, though. It's Von C coming on through against Hyde. Now, this matchup, definitely one that, I mean, both of these players have huge reputations for themselves, but also both players that are renowned for being able to control the game.
Yeah, no, both of them are. And with this current draft that we have, Rona going up against Sky is something we didn't touch on too much, but we definitely should. The fact that Sky has a much faster jungle clear speed, and she can out-rotate the Rona if she plays very proactively and she plays aggressively. Not only that, in 1v1 situations, if Hyde plays it correctly, he can easily outduel the Rona. So there's a lot of room for Hyde to be effective and be successful and enable his team to carry on the win.
And there's also, when you look at this matchup as a head-to-head, regardless of the heroes they're playing, both of these junglers are so influential to their team's success. I mean, even in this series, you can see it. The game where Von C doesn't have that strong of a showing, Team Solomid lose. The game where Von C has an incredible showing and has a great scoreline at the end, Team Solomid ends up finding the win. And it goes both ways. Both of these teams rely a lot on their junglers being able to have a strong performance to be able to find victories.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the jungler typically is the one in this update specifically that is making those plays and being proactive.
Yeah, my only problem is that Sky, if he goes for Dragon's Eye especially, it's going to be hard for him to cut through all the sustain that Lyra does bring for TSM here in this draft, especially with the durability that Rona has with her Surface Mask. I'm assuming she's going to go for, and some defense, the fortified health you get from Red Mist. It really can go either way. It's going to be a very interesting matchup because it's going to be all about the small plays and the small advantages these players can gain to help their team scale a little bit better, help the team get one more item, one more objective. It can be all the difference.
Yeah, it certainly can be all the difference. And that's the thing about the 3v3 game mode as well, is you're a 33% of your team. Every little micro mistake in those team fights matters all that much more. Let's take a look at where we stand within North America while we get this third and final game ready for you guys. Rogue still topping the table, although they were knocked out in their quarterfinal. This is all between Tribe and TSM right now. 2 points is the difference. 3 if TSM can push themselves on into the semifinals. And let's take a look at our bracket, because that is what really is important right now. If we take a look at where everyone is moving on with this week's game specifically, Cloud9 versus Nova will be our first semi-final tomorrow, but the one that everyone is most excited for is going to be that second semi-final. Tribe 2-0 in Gangstars earlier. TSM and Tempo Storm tied right now.
And we got to talk about something. Rogue chances have not gone out of the window just yet. They still have an opportunity to go to Worlds. It's a very long shot, but it's possible. How? If TSM doesn't gain more than 3 points throughout the weekend, meaning they don't tie with them, they remain 1 point below, and then Tribe goes on to not win the weekend if they gain only 7 points, then Rogue will still end up 1 point above both of these teams, and despite being knocked out in quarterfinals, they would still go to Worlds. So their chances and their hopes are still alive, and that's why I'm pretty sure they're watching every single one of these matches very carefully.
Yeah, every single game just matters so much right now when it comes to these teams and when it comes to the standings in regards to Worlds. We can have a bit of a recap of our draft just for anyone that missed the draft phase in general. We do have Black Feather, Arden, and Sky going up against Rona, Lyra, and Celeste. And we've talked about the lane match, we've talked about the jungle matchup, we've not really talked about the captains that much. And obviously Arden and Lyra, they have been two of the most picked captains across the course of this update. But individually, they actually have pretty interesting interactions. Both of them do fairly well into one another.
Yeah, I mean, the Lyra is actually very strong against the Arden because when you get that bulwark down, all of a sudden Arden can't use any of his 3 abilities. All 3 of them rely on that mobility, the dash that the Bulwark prevents you from being able to do. So you can really shut down an Arden very heavily with a well-timed Bulwark.
All right, we'll see whether FlashX can bring those into the game.
Not only that, but Arden, honestly, I really hope to see Playoff Boy pick up an early Echo. Dropping 2 gauntlets could be so huge in those team fights, because once a reflex is burned, for example, let's say Celeste goes for an Aegis and tries to run out of the first gauntlet because she doesn't want to be focused down by the Black Feather, you bring down or you drop down the second gauntlet and then she has nowhere to run. So Playboy Afro can be extremely influential to his team's success in this game. And honestly, Arden, back when he played on Hollywood Hammers, it was one of his best picks. So I really hope he shows up huge in this matchup.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see how these late game team fights are going to be panning out. Obviously, both these compositions very damage heavy and very much about blowing up their opponents before the same can happen to them and their team. And this is going to be such an important game. I do apologize about the delays that we are having with this third and final match of this series. I feel like we're just teasing you guys. We're keeping you on the edge of your seat for this series as we're looking towards game number 3. I'm going to do that thing that I do sometimes, guys. I'm going to pressure you for predictions coming into game 3 of this series. I did it earlier today, and I'm going to do it again. Team Solomid against Tempo Storm. Do we have a favorite coming in here?
I mean, the favorite's Team Solomid. Like that, there's still no question about that. Even if Tempo Storm did pick up that game 1 victory, you still have to say Team Solomid is the favorite, regardless of composition or anything of the sort. But now that we have this game underway, or the series underway, I should say, and the draft completed, I mean, Tempo Storm has a very, very strong chance with the draft that they have here, but I do still feel like Team Solomid is going to be able to overcome this, and the game 1 deficit, I think Team Solomid is going to be able to close out this series 2-1.
That's what you have to expect. That's what you have to predict, just because it's TSM with so much more on the line versus Tempo Storm with a lot less on the line. Tempo Storm already locked in for the Challenger Zone. They're going to be going for those battles, and those battles will be played on 2.10 anyway, so they don't have a lot to do here other than pride and playing spoilers. So I am predicting TSM, but my heart kind of says I want Tempo Storm to win, just so that I want Tempo Storm to win and then Tribe to lose semifinals, just so that we have a very interesting dynamic of like all 3 teams that had chances to qualify to Worlds losing early on. It would be just ironic,
Misery
in my
loves
opinion.
company for Rakizoro here.
It would certainly be an interesting scenario. I'm not jealous of whoever has to figure out those tiebreakers. It turns out it's probably me that ends up figuring that out anyway. But I do want to remind you guys why we're all here and what's going to be happening at the end of tomorrow. We're going to be jumping into our World's Draw at the end of tomorrow's broadcast. Make sure to tune in with us, because on the 14th to the 17th of December, we're going to be going to Singapore and heading to the World Championship. It's going to be 4 groups going on in there with 3 teams per group, but we have to decide which teams are going into which group, and that's going to be happening at the end of tomorrow's broadcast, so make sure to tune in tomorrow. And I mean, just mentioning tomorrow, we have a whole lot of exciting games coming to everyone's faces tomorrow, but apparently the game is getting ready to go. Let's have a very quick recap of what we're expecting to see coming out in this last game between Tempo. In fact, we don't have time. We're in the loading screen. We're getting into this one. We're going to stop talking now. We're going to pass it to our casters. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know who you are voting for. I've baited you all. I've baited you all again. Production is telling me that the server has crashed.
It's April Fool's, guys.
Again, it is
a little late.
April Fool's in November. Unfortunately, the game is just not playing ball today with us.
I want to say something quickly. I've been calling Playboy Afro Playoff Boy multiple times now, and excuse me, man. I mean,
it's going to be a few years before the Playoff Boy is going to be on the fold, having just been born earlier this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see if he has a VG future ahead of him. You definitely assume so, but this is definitely going to be an exciting game coming up. So let's actually have a recap of how we expect this one to pan out.
Oh, I actually also want to touch on the tiebreaker scenarios that we talked about a little bit too. Just while we have time, let's go into them. So we've been talking about the potential for tiebreakers. We've already broken down a lot of what could be the potential tiebreaker scenarios, and looking at Tribe and Team Solomid now that Rogue is out of the contention for this week. Coming into this week, the teams were 21-12 as an overall record for Tribe and 21-10 for Team Solomid. Their head-to-head record 4-2 in favor of Team Solomid. So that means that if Tribe 2-0s Team Solomid, their head-to-head record becomes tied, and it then goes to a win-loss the win percent record as the next tiebreaker. That's less than 3% away from each other coming into this week. And that's why all these games are so important. We always talk about every single game matters, and it's because of situations like this where one single loss can drop you that 3% win percentage and knock you out of Worlds potentially here. So the fact that Tempo Storm already took a game off of Team Solomid is absolutely huge for Tribe, assuming they can 2-0 Team Solomid tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Every single game matters. And the thing is, even in the scenario where Tribe 2-0s Team Solomid tomorrow, we still have a third-place game to play. We still have a final to play. So there's extra games that come into that calculation as well. There's so many games still remaining to play.
Yeah, I mean, there are some tiebreaker scenarios where if Tribe beats TSM 2-0 and then they win the finals 2-1, and then TSM wins the third-place match, it could still go to TSM. Very, very not expectable
we'll
scenarios, but it's possible.
Yeah, we can get more in-depth once we see those games come through, because then we'll have the actual numbers to back it up, instead of just pure speculation at this point. But at the end of the day, right now, if Tribe wins out this week without losing a single game, they will be the team that goes to Worlds. So there's a lot of pressure there.
Yeah, and the reason why we keep talking about Worlds and, why is it so important is because the biggest competition of the year for Vainglory in Singapore in December, all the teams, the best teams from all around the world are going to be gathering there to compete for the title of the best team in the world. It's so important. Even for the teams that don't win it, getting there and gaining the reputation, gaining the exposure and the experience from playing against all the international teams is so important once they go back to their respective regions and play their respective competitions.
Yeah, we get to see it in so many esports around the world where these exact same situations happen, where the teams that get the international experience bring that experience back to their home region, and it just levels up the entire region as a whole. I mean, I do still remember at last year's Worlds, I was talking to the team from South America, and this was like Vainglory had just started in South America earlier that year, a few months before the World Championship, and the team that got to play at the Worlds, they were so humbled just by the fact of being there and being like the experience. They literally told me like the experience of just being at Worlds is going to help them so much in the future. And now they're back again. The same team from South America has qualified for this year, so they definitely took that experience and leveled up their play.
And on the opposite side of that scale as well, when we get to the World Championship, we'll get to see teams like the EA teams, for example, going up against North America. Obviously, we've seen snippets of this in Mobile Masters, but those are best of ones. How much does that really tell you? There is so much to see when we get to the World Championship.
I'm so excited for that. EA, I especially with how North America has been going on for the last 3 weeks. Before C9 were so dominant, I was expecting that they would dominate Worlds as well, but that has not continued to be the case, and now I'm actually expecting EA to come out blazing, especially since we've been watching quite a bit of that region and now preparing for how they're going to be. I mean, I just can't wait to see all the different regions clash, their different metas, their different play styles going up against one another. It's going to be so exciting.
And don't forget the Southeast Asian region as well. One of these regions
China as well.
And China being there, but Southeast Asia specifically I want to talk about a little bit because they're one of these regions that kind of gets overlooked a lot when you talk about the competitive play, but it's in their backyard. There's a team who is based in Singapore that will be competing in Singapore at the World Championships, and you cannot underestimate the effect that home field advantage, so to speak, has. We've asked players about it with these unified championships, and they've said, yeah, it definitely affects them, like feeding off the energy of the crowd. If the entire stadium is there rooting for you, you feel like an extra boost of energy going into your game. So a lot of things can happen at Worlds, and it's going to be an absolute blast.
All right, well, heading towards 5v5, there have been a couple of new heroes coming on into the game. We've had Churnwalker and we've had Lorelei coming on in recently. We're going to take a quick closer look at those two new heroes.
You look like you need a hug. I understand. solo queue is hard sometimes. Maybe join a guild.
Get off my lawn.
And a beautifully manicured lawn it is.
Watching you fight is like watching a fish attempt to jog up a mountain.
That's quite specific.
Play!
No, my friend.
Now time to play!
So salty. You should always look on the bright side of life. I live underwater. My glass is always full.
Welcome to the Vainglory Hero Spotlight, featuring Churnwalker. Most say the Churnwalker is a story told to frighten children or just a figment of wild imaginations. Some say the monster truly lives, stalking the wildest places in the world. A select few know the truth. The Churnwalker is only a man, twisted by the dark forces of the Churn. Martin Walker was an explorer who dedicated his life to researching and charting the unknown. While in the wilderness, the Churn bypassed his protective suit and poisoned him slowly, infecting his mind, filling his head with whispers from an unknown language. At last, all that had been Martin Walker was no more. He is now the monster known the world over as the Churnwalker. Churnwalker has massive area of control potential, and it all revolves around his first ability, Hook and Chain. Churnwalker throws a hook toward a location. Targets that are hit by this ability are briefly slowed and chained to him. Chained targets take damage over time, however, the victim can break the chain if they manage to move far enough away from him. Landing this ability resets its cooldown, allowing Churnwalker to throw out multiple hooks in rapid succession. However, a victim who is currently chained cannot be struck by more of his hooks. Overdrive this ability to increase the damage it deals over time and extend the range of his hook. Churnwalker's second ability, Torment, deals damage and yanks all chained targets towards him. Use this to drag your enemies toward your team, or position yourself to pull enemies away when they try to jump into the backline and attack your carry. Overdriving this ability will pull chained targets even further. Sucks to be them. Churnwalker's ultimate, Trespass, slingshots him to a new location, ripping his hooks free from all his chained targets and stunning them in place. His ultimate can only be used if he has at least one target chained, and he may only select an area around chained targets to travel to. His heroic perk is Futility of Life. This empowers Churnwalker to heal himself with a portion of any damage that chained targets are dealt from anyone. Additionally, if a chained victim takes damage, other poor souls chained as well will take a portion of that damage too. Sharing is caring. That means you can take your allied Kestrel's ultimate and turn it into a one-shot 3-kill. Churnwalker's heroic perk helps him excel in jungle battles. Whenever a teamfight breaks out, make sure to look around for any hapless enemies to chain, including targets like jungle monsters and crystal miners. Remember, each chain he has attached will boost his healing through Futility of Life. Trespass is a powerful ability for locking down enemy heroes, but it can also be a great repositioning tool to put you in the perfect spot to land your next hook. For example, if you can't reach the enemy carry that's standing far in the back, chain their captain, then trespass to the other side of him using your ultimate. While the captain is still recovering from your stun, you can land a second hook on your juicy target, so your team can damage your new victim by attacking either one of them. If Churnwalker can properly combo his skills together, it's easy to isolate a target from the rest of their team and serve that hero up for breakfast. Here, Churnwalker waits in the bush until an opportune moment presents itself. He throws out a hook and chain, uses Torment to yank Celeste closer to Rhyme, then immediately activates Trespass to stun. Now, normally Churnwalker wants to keep his targets chained, but in this instance, using his ultimate to break the chains allowed for a second hook to land on Celeste, keeping her in range of his ally and finishing her off for good. Churnwalker is, at his core, a playmaker. In this sequence, Churnwalker would love to secure a kill on the fleeing Vox, but there's no way he can get close enough to do it himself. Instead, Churnwalker throws a hook behind him onto a jungle monster near his teammate Saw. That second chain is seriously bad news for Vox. Now that Churnwalker has both of them chained, Saw can roadie run stab the monster, sending massive damage up the chains to explode the fleeing Vox into confetti. Fear the smart Churnwalker, folks. Thanks for watching the Churnwalker Hero Spotlight. If you want to learn more about Martine Walker's descent into madness, check out these Walker Archives videos. See you next time.
All right, we're back, boys and girls, and we're hopefully jumping on into this game very quickly for you guys. There is a test game happening right as we speak to make sure that the server is stable and we'll be able to get this third game going properly for you guys. But while we wait for that test game to be completed and all the boxes to be ticked, we're going to have a bit of a recap of what happened during the draft for anyone who missed what was happening towards the start of this one. So let's run through this one. Obviously, Blackfeather, the first pick, very standard first pick, and then Rona going into the Blackfeather, a standard counter to
Yeah, we talked about the Churnwalker being banned as well. I mean, it's a ban, a smart one, just because not a lot of teams know how to deal with this new hero yet. It's still fairly new, the first update for it, and TSM, one of the best teams to play it. So Tempo Storm, instead of having to worry about how to counter it, they just take it off the table.
Yeah, it also then guarantees that you do get either the Rhyme or the Blackfeather. And with Team Solomid banning away the Rhyme, it was, like Joe said, a very quick Blackfeather pickup. It's kind of become the standard of, if he's available, you take the Blackfeather. Unless you're a team that heavily prioritizes the Rhyme, always go for this Blackfeather when it's open. And then Rona is just the counter to the Blackfeather. So the start of the draft was very almost predictable just because of the teams that were involved.
Indeed, and then you got the Kestrel and the Alpha band into the Lyra first pick, into the Celeste for TSM. So they ended up with a composition that is Celeste, Rona, and Lyra. And at this point, you have to wonder, we talked about it, whether Celeste is going to go to lane or jungle, whether Rona is going to go to lane or jungle. Either way, they have their weaknesses and they have their strengths. If Rona does go to the jungle, it means that she does not gain as much gold and she does not reach as many items as quickly, and that could be a vulnerability that can be abused by the side of Tempo Storm.
Yeah, it's almost, you wonder if they might do this. There's something a couple of teams have done in the past. It's not really done frequently, but send the Rona into the lane to start with the Celeste in the jungle to start. And you get the Celeste to level 8 because there's more experience in the jungle than there is in the lane, but there's more gold in the lane. So you have them go like that for a little while. Once the level 8 comes out, you swap where they are so that now you have the Rona already having a fair bit of gold and the Celeste already being at level 8. And you let them then farm up that way. It's an idea, but it'll be interesting.
I'll tell you, we did that as Gangsters back in the first VIPL. We did it with Glaive and Vox, I believe it was, and we would send Glaive to the lane to get his first tier 3 item quicker than the opponent's jungle, and then drop him to the jungle, and now he has an advantage in that matchup. It used to work back then, but ever since, we never really saw any team do it. So it could come up.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that we could see coming out when we get to the World Championship as well. Those kind of off-the-wall strategies that can get you a small advantage, even if it only wins you 1 or 2 games before everyone else catches on. Those 1 or 2 games could be the difference between making it to the quarterfinals or getting knocked out during the group stage. I'm very excited to get over to our World Championship. I'm very excited to get into this game as well. Team Solomid going up against Tempo Storm. This is going to be such an important game when it comes to the standings. Team Solomid still trying to fight their way to go up against Tribe tomorrow. Tribe in the semi-finals already. So many points on the line for these guys. And honestly, that world spot so crucial, and the fact that Rogue lost their quarterfinal earlier today means everything to these teams.
I mean, that really was crazy watching Rogue go down to C9. They held their own destiny in their own hands, and they could have went onto winning onto the finals eventually, gaining 6 points, and that would have for sure secured their spot no matter what else would have happened. But unfortunately for them, they did lose, and now they have to wait and see how TSM and Tribe perform.
Absolutely. We'll have to see how this is going to perform later on today as we get on into this third and final game. But don't forget, guys, that you can already sign up for early access for the 5v5 game mode. So let's throw it over to the teaser trailer for that. link on your screens, 5v5.vainglorygame.com. I'm telling you guys to sign up. Honestly, if you haven't already signed up, what have you been doing all this time? Come on, man. We've shouted it out a few times now. It's been all over Twitter. Make sure to sign up. Sign up with as many email addresses as you can. I cannot wait for the early access to come out.
Yeah, we've gotten to talk a lot about the different strategies that could come out from 5v5, the different play styles that could come out from 5v5, the way you have to interact with the map and your teammates in 5v5. There's a lot of new intricacies, and we've only scratched the surface. We're still at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to all the different things that are going to be involved in playing the new 5v5 mode in Vainglory. So it is going to be incredibly exciting. And for anyone who is skeptical of 5v5, there's a couple of you out there I've seen around on Twitter. It is not going to be replacing 3v3. 3v3 will still be a game mode in Vainglory that you can continue to play on if you so desire. So you don't have to have any worries about losing your favorite game mode with the addition of 5v5.
And we don't even know yet whether 5v5 is going to be the main mode for Vainglory, whether it's going to be the esports or not. It's all speculation. It's all going to be speculation until 5v5 comes out, until the community reacts to it. And SEMC always been one of the best companies, one of the best developers that respect their community's wishes and develop things around them. 5v5 is going to be a really exciting one because we also don't know how it's going to be played out. You know, we don't know if it's going to be 2 bottom lane, 1 mid lane, 1 top, another jungle like traditional MOBAs, or there's going to be completely different stuff. Maybe you group S5 and you go push a turret first level, and that maybe is the better way to do it in Vainglory. We really don't know, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it to test out all sort of different things.
And the thing is, we've seen many of those different kind of strategies coming out in other MOBAs across the course of the years, across the course of different patches and different metas. So whatever we see for 5v5 when it first comes out in Vainglory probably isn't the same thing that we'll see 2-3 years down the line. Things will completely change over the years. So I'm excited to see that evolution as well. And we've seen that in 3v3. We've seen historically different things being strong picks and then evolving over time and becoming captains or becoming carries and lots of different stuff like that. So I'm excited to see how 5v5 is going to be evolving over the years. Now, unfortunately, we are still having issues with the service, so we are going to go to a quick break before we jump into this third and final game between Team Solomid and Tempo Storm. Please do stick around. We'll be back into the game as soon as possible for you guys.
only just a dream. It's a fire in love. It's a fire in love. It's a fire in the hole.
Hello again, everybody. We are back at the analyst desk, and we have been told that this server is working now. We should be able to get this game underway. We should be able to finally jump into Game 3 between Team Solomid and Tempo Storm. Let's take a look at the draft before we jump on into this one. Have a very quick recap and refresh our memories on what actually happened during this draft. We've got Blackfeather, Rona, Arden, Lyra, Sky, and Celeste. Guys, break this one down quickly for me.
Yeah, so Tempo Storm, it seems like they're going for Blackfeather lane with a Sky CP in the jungle to counter this Rona coming out from TSM, but then TSM went for a Celeste to counter the composition coming out from Tempo Storm. So a lot of back and forth in the draft. In my opinion, it ended up with fairly even matchups, but it's all about the execution, honestly, like usually it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about how TSM, they're going to have to be trying to peel for Best Chuck Celeste. And we've seen Best Chuck, exceptional Celeste player. But it's a different kind of peel. It's not the CC that you usually see. It's not the protection. It's just trying to burst down Tempo Storm before they can do the same to Chuck.
Trying to peel your opponents away by making them have to run away is the goal here for Team Solomid.
All right, well, it's time to get on into this one. We are in the loading screen, ladies and gentlemen. Tweet out with the hashtag Vainglory8. Let everyone know that it is up and working again. And it's time to find out if TSM can make it to the semis or if Tempo Storm have got this one. It's time to pass it to Medic and Denomine.
Thank you very much, Munch. We are back with the final game of the day here in NA. TSM up against Tempo Storm. It's 1-1 in this series, and Tempo Storm have the opportunity to play spoiler here for both TSM and for Tribe tomorrow if they win this series.
Yeah, both these teams excited to get into the final game. We saw all the good luck, have fun spammed out there just a minute ago. Obviously, Gaspy going to be in the lane on the Weapon Power Blackfeather, and Hyde going to be picking up this Crystal Power Sky to try to scale up the damage. We've seen it work with him before against the Rona. Can he have a repeat performance?
I think the main issue for Tempo Storm is here that Best Chuck NA has got his Celeste, and he's an incredibly strong Celeste player. And we can see TSM already grouping up around this Elder Treant, looking to try and claim it for their own. It will go over to them. Didn't say exactly who got it, but it was Best Chuck NA. TSM win out the first battle in the war of attrition that is this game.
I'd say an okay start there. Nah, it's obviously not anything that any team is going to take and just run away with over one additional camp, but it does net around 200 gold over to the side of TSM, so it's all right. Now, Best Chuck in the lane, as you mentioned, he is a absolutely phenomenal Celeste. Celeste is actually fairly decent at making life difficult for a Sky. You can restrict the areas that she's allowed to Surrey Strike. You kind of control where you allow the Sky to go, as well as then, Blackfeather is a good counter to the Celeste, but we have to remember, there's a Rona here on Von C as well, and Rona very good into this Blackfeather.
You know what else is really good into a Sky? A Bright Bulwark coming out from a Lyra does such a good job of shutting her down as well. So have to see if Flash X is able to control that Lyra well enough to shut down this enemy Sky. Hyde going for it. Once again, he's going down the CP route. His CP Kestrel didn't do the best of jobs in the last game, however long ago that was, but Bonsi might actually be the first to fall here as Hyde does jump in, looking for Best Chuck as well, who is low on energy, but landing those Helios gets himself a kill. They're going to chase onto Playboy Afro. Here's Gaspy from the back, jumps in with a Faint of Heart, looking for Flash X as their first kill. Pure Sigil from Flash X boots into it, gets him the double movement speed buff, and gets himself away for the time being.
It was Hyde picking up the first blood in that fight. An excellent Surrey Strike just as Von C turned back down to try to get some damage onto him. Walked right into those little missiles and was able to bring him down. But Hyde quickly paid for it with his life as Best Chuck rotated down with Flash. And they were able to get a return kill very quickly. But that's Tempo Storm now with a 500 gold lead here. And Flash narrowly missing out on canceling that recall out of Gaspy. So getting into this game, again, so much on the line for Team Solomid. They have to be able to shut down this Sky and Blackfeather combination. It's going to be no easy task. Hyde, again, great performance on the Sky in the recent past. And then we know on the 2.9.1 update, Blackfeather is a highly contested pick that, if allowed to run rampant in a fight, can build up breaking point incredibly quickly, and you can run away with things from there.
And both teams have some power picks on the current patch. You know, Rona we've been seeing a lot more. Celeste has always been very strong. Lyra as well for TSM. Some very strong picks, especially in the hands of these TSM players. They are looking to chase on to Hyde a little bit here. Husui strikes off towards the side. The core collapse doesn't quite connect. And so I think Hyde will be able to escape for the time being. But Vonsi is still on the chase. They're going to turn their eyes over towards the Arden instead. Playboy Afro able to get himself away with a healing flask. And it's an ever so slight gold lead for Tempo Storm, but nothing for TSM to be worried about for the time being.
Yeah, Tempo still has their jungle to clean out, though. They were able to take away all 3 of those back minions out of Vonsi's jungle. Hyde making really aggressive rotations and putting them to the fullest effect that he can. Now sitting on 1,300 gold and may look to buy that Dragon's Eye, but he has to be cautious as Vonsi and Flash are down here. But he'll go ahead and take the safe route and recall, again, probably the Dragon's Eye for the first item. There it is, and Best Chuck has completed his as well, while Vonsi and Gatsby are both, they appear at least to be working into the Serpent's Mask respectively. And I'm a little surprised Gatsby's not going into the Poison Shiv against a Lyra. That seems like it could potentially be a mistake.
Maybe just waiting on it, although don't usually see people build the Serpent's Mask and then the Poison Shiv afterwards, so I have to wait and see. Gatsby wants that Serpent's Mask for the extra healing, of course, into these prolonged trades, especially against Poke. Having that extra bit of healing can help you out a huge amount. But still, it will be intriguing to see how effective Flash X is on this Lyra later on with the Imperial Sigils, because we've seen how strong her heals can be, especially if you go for that Crucible and get extra health under your belt. She's gone for the Fountain first though, as has Playboy Afro. And neither team really able to take too commanding a position this early on. As expected, it's a little bit of a slower start from both these teams.
I think the Fountain is just kind of the safe route to go on a Lyra. The Crucible is better if you get an edge early, and that hasn't been done. But a stun on the Chuck!
Looking from the death from above, Chuck's able to get away. You were a lot more excited about that than I think either of the teams were in that situation. It's one of those like, oh, the stun lands, but we're actually not going to be able to chase him out here anyway.
I just want to be able to see a crazy, aggressive 40-kill game out of
you just
Tempo
want
Storm.
action now, man. You just want action.
It's getting late over there in Europe. Just trying to make sure you have plenty of excitement to keep you awake and alive throughout this game.
If I die from lack of excitement, that is a very odd death to happen. I can tell you that's not a medical cause of death. We can't write that on a medical certificate of death. If anyone ever tells you, I was so excited I just died, probably lying.
At least exaggerating.
Yeah, hyperbole, I believe it's called. But at the moment, you cannot exaggerate how important this game is for TSM, as they are looking to secure their second Worlds in a row. They need to win this game and then be able to get more points than Tribe in the current, than Rogue, sorry, in the current days, and Tribe, to secure themselves that spot. But winning this series is the first step on a road to Singapore.
And again, for anybody that may not have been with us earlier, Rogue did end up losing their game to Cloud9, so they will not be able to acquire any more points. They did get 1, but they are done for the weekend. So both Tribe and Team Solomid are the 2 teams still in the running with Rogue of getting that world spot. And you know, if TSM lose here, their road ends, and it's solely on Tribe to be able to win the weekend and catch up. And Tempo Storm have been looking like a formidable opponent, but Hyde has to be so careful. All 3 members of TSM are here.
Daddy does looking for a little bit of an engage on towards these treants. The healer went down, Imperial Sigil from Flash X as they get forced away, but Von C gets the treant for himself, and TSM are fine with that. No gain really from Tempo Storm off that invade, but they do start up the gold miner, and TSM going to try and fight away from it. There is the gauntlet coming out. Flash X has the Arcane Passage, put the Imperial Sigil down. Arcane Passage is out, gold miner down to half. And TSM still looking to come in here because Best Chuck still has the Solar Storm and can re-engage this. Tempo Storm needs to be careful. They've used those ults already. Here comes Von C, all diving on towards that Black Feather. But what comes out, Best Chuck with a core collapse is going to get the stun off. Playboy Afro is so low, Best Chuck still alive, and already the first blood going down. The Fountain used very late as well. The Sui Strike coming out from Hyde here, but he's got no place to go. The Red Mist from Von C, chased away by Hyde, but into the fray. Gets the kill. Von C secures it, and TSM get 2 kills and get themselves out to safety.
And one key thing right before that fight broke out was Best Chuck has reached level 8. Is he going to die in the lane to Playboy Afro? The legend here on this Arden going to hunt down a return kill as we apparently zoom in onto Chuck's body. Gotta thank our cameraman over there, making sure we all know that Best Chuck died. But level 8 on Celeste is the first like real big spike she has. She gets the overdrive into the heliogenesis that gives her a little bit of additional range, and in turn provides a little additional safety for her positioning, as there's a little bit of a trading here in the lane, but nothing major. Gaspy and Von C pretty even as far as their build goes. So Von C doing a good job out of the jungle here. 50 CS in 10 minutes, so he's right on par. And then looking up in the lane, we are at about 80 something on both of the carries. So both teams fairly evenly farmed up right now, but it's Team Solomid with the gold advantage. They are going to be looking to abuse the range and the zoning potential that Best Chuck has at every single point they can. And if they get an opportunity to get on a turret, they have so much objective advantage that Tempo Storm just does not have at this point in the game.
That they do. The issue is, of course, getting the effective damage down on towards these turrets as well. Gaspy's taking a few Helios to the face, but it's nothing too major at the moment. Von C has now finished his breaking point, so he'll be looking for some aggressive trades into Tempo Storm. He's actually snuck in here past that flare. He's going to get onto Horde's Hyde. Pops up the Red Mist. There's the Gauntlet coming out from Tempo Storm as they try and disengage. The chase from Gaspy onto Best Chuck. Rose offensive use as well. The core collapse comes out. Hyde's already gone down, and now TSM looking for the rest of the fight. They go onto Gaspy, who's trying to run his way away. Can he escape from Von C? Spinning up the axes. Cannot quite get close enough to catch onto Gaspy, but with an into the fray and a Red Mist, it should be a kill onto this Black Feather. There we go. 2 kills, 0 in favor of TSM. And now they are looking pretty darn dominant in this series.
And fortunately for the side of Tempo, the gauntlets, it felt a little misplaced in that last fight. It was a good gauntlet that actually separated Von C and Best Chuck, but because Gaspy and Hyde were too far away to actually capitalize and get onto Chuck, they weren't able to get anything out of the activation. And as a result, TSM pick up a couple kills, they pick up a turret, and they pick up a gold mine, and now sit 3,000 gold ahead of the opposition, as Von C has completed the breaking point, as well as Gaspy, and Best Chuck working into the broken myth now. So looking at the build specifically, the jungler for TSM and the laner for Tempo Storm are fairly even, but Best Chuck is far ahead of the crystal carry on the side of Tempo Storm. So as far as the builds go, TSM have a pretty distinct advantage right now.
That they do, just so far ahead. We're starting to see Infusions picked up. Gaspy's just finished his, but he's all the way back in base. TSM looking for a bit of an invade into the jungle of Tempo Storm, but cannot find anything for the time being. I mean, taking that first turret does give them the ability to get a bit more vision control as well. Something FlashX has been so good at is laying scout traps deep into the enemy jungle. We saw it last game against Hyde. Hyde basically couldn't move anywhere on that CP Celeste, but now they are just going to try and catch out Gaspy. There is the stun lock. The bright bulwark comes out as well, but he's going to Rose offensive. The Solar Storm not enough, and Gaspy actually able to dodge around this fight. Von C spins up the Red Mist, but doesn't have the damage to chase into Tempo Storm any further, and TSM will just try and force back the Black Feather, maybe get some damage down onto this turret. Of course, Supernovas do such a chunk at this point. And then we'll get some damage down. I think Gaspy's going to be here in time to save this, although one more Helio might be enough. Von C will secure the turret. There's the Gauntlet as well. Hyde clear out this wave, but second Gauntlet comes out with the Echo. Von C is stunned up by that, and now it's on Best Chuck to do the damage on towards Gaspy. The Red Mist is coming down, and Tempo Storm are getting shredded out. 1 for 1, 2 for 1 now in favor of TSM. Von C goes in for the chase on towards Hyde as well, and I'm not sure Hyde has too many places to go. The Arcane Passage from FlashX, but a good use of it by Hyde will get him away. He's got Sui Strike back up just about now. He can try and dodge away, but he dodges straight into the face of FlashX, and TSM should eventually be able to secure this kill. Will they get the ace is the big question. Yes, they will. And with ace buff minions, they can go take the gold miner, let the minions push in, and secure themselves a 6,000 gold lead in this game.
That was quite a long fight, but Team Solomid are able to find the ace. They're looking to get a gold mine. They did get the turret during the middle of that push as well. So they're doing a good job keeping up the aggression and extending their gold lead every chance they get. Now, I do want to make note, this is on 2.9.1, so this Celeste does not have the massive changes to energy that we had in our most recent update. And as a result, we did look in that last fight, Best Chuck was pretty energy starved. He was getting quite low. So, we will have to be kind of moderate on our energy management here on the Celeste. He has the Broken Myth complete. He also has a tier 2 armor. So I'm interested to see if he ends up going into a 4th offensive item, or if he ends up picking up a block, since that gauntlet can be so devastating to his cause.
Yeah, especially with being echoed out as well. Usually you can rely on your roam to get the Crucible off at a good time, but if there's 2 gauntlets, it's very difficult to actually plan out exactly how you're going to block out. They could just try and continue to fight before those 2 gauntlets really become too much of a problem. Best Chuck getting some damage down with the Helios across the wall, looking for the supers. There is the Bright Bulwark as well. Von C actually dodges out. The Solar Storm absolutely collapses on the face of Playboy Afro. Eventually he will fall. Chase onto Gatsby and Hyde as well, but it looks like TSM may just be looking for turrets here. Von C went very deep. Doesn't get too much more out of it. But TSM get 1 kill. The Kraken is alive, and TSM might turn their eyes towards getting a 4th team member for the time being.
They're looking for that Kraken, and Celeste will take it down so quickly, as well as Rona actually does a decent chunk of damage to that objective as well. Tempo Storm are going to have to make their way over here if they want to contest it, but it looks like they're just looking to get a little bit of additional gold in their pocket so that they can perhaps be ready for the next fight that is inevitably coming directly to their front door at this choke point turret. Echo is complete for Flash X, so, likely going to be used on that Bright Bulwark to limit Hyde's movement as much as he possibly can, and that's going to allow Von C and Best Chuck to be able to rein in the damage. They are now on this choke point turret. Can they do this, Medic? Can they end this on 1 push?
If they can, it will be pretty impressive. A long wait for this game, but it will have lived up to the hype if TSM can end here. They have got the Kraken pushing in on that choke point turret. They'll take it out incredibly quickly. It has already fallen, and now Tempo on their last legs, the last stand, the last defense for them. Best Chuck chases away, the reflex used. The Kraken continues to push in, waiting for this gauntlet to fall off. There we go. TSM now stride forward, confident, prideful as they push into the base of Tempo Storm. Good stun onto Playboy Afro. The gauntlet has been laid down, but it's more of a battle arena as the 2 teams spin up. The Red Mist doing a lot of work as TSM looking for these kills. How low is Best Chuck? He's taken down, and already the Kraken gets a turret. One of the crystal turrets has fallen as Tempo Storm now realize they have a 4th team member of TSM to deal with. They will go for the Kraken instead of TSM, who have backed away from the base.
And this Kraken is getting pretty close. 1 more hit will do. Will she land it? She will. The Tempo Storm base is now cracked wide open, and they are going to be looking to defend their final push here against Team Solomid. Best Chuck is getting ready to come back onto the fold. He has gone into that block, so he will be able to get out of a gauntlet if he needs to. He has 2,500 gold in his pocket as well. Well, there, he's moving a little bit. Oh, he's now sold that block. And got a clockwork.
Nice. There is a 4th offensive item. Gets him that extra max energy as well, in the energy recharge that we were talking about, him lacking in some of the last fights.
This will be able to help him spam out a few more of his abilities. Obviously, the Core Collapse will come up a little bit sooner, as well as the Solar Storm. And a couple of seconds on either of those cooldowns could change the way a fight really breaks out. 1 additional stun trying to chase down Hyde, or even a Solar Storm, just snipe out that 1 last target. Here's the gauntlet.
From the side, Death from Above rains down on towards Flash X. There's the Solar Storm. The Red Mist spins up as well, and Playboy Afro alongside Hyde are the 2 remaining members of Tempo Storm. They need to survive. They need to get away, because otherwise TSM just win this game. Playboy Afro dead. Hyde is trying to dodge his way around, but he cannot escape from Von C, who is 8-1-3. and TSM secure their spot in the semi-finals tomorrow and keep on the road to Worlds as well. Just a few more points needed for them to secure that Worlds qualification. And they are within reaching, within touch. They can feel that Singaporean flight at their grasp.
And I believe it's only 3 more points that Team Solomid will need tomorrow. I'll have to double check the standings. Do not hold me to that. But it's very, very close. And their chances are looking good tomorrow. Obviously, they have a chance at picking up an additional 6 points if they're able to win the whole weekend. But it's not going to be an easy path ahead of them. Obviously, with Tribe still in the running, they're going to be bringing their A game. And Tribe looked amazing last weekend. So that's all for me today, Medic. You know, anything else you got to say?
No, that's all from both of us. We're going to hand it back across towards the analyst to break down the NA action and set us up for all of the action tomorrow. Thank you very much, Denominate. We're going to hand it over to Munch and the guys.
Thank you very much, guys. That is the end of our last game of